We're going to call the meeting to order at 7:06. Trustee Bonilla, can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam President, you have a quorum?
So the first item on the open session is the roll call. Madam Clerk, can you do the roll call, please?
Trustee Weinstein? Student Trustee Galan?
Here.
Trustee Handy?
Here.
Trustee Withrow? Trustee Gonzalez-Yuan? Student Trustee Jordan? And Trustee Bonilla? Thank you, all present. Excuse me. Trustee Riley?
Present.
And Trustee Brown?
Here.
Thank you.
So the next item on the agenda is report of action taken in closed session. Trustee Handy, can you read the report of action taken in closed session?
Tonight in closed session, recommendation to appoint William Bruce as Dean of Special Programs and Grants, College of Alameda, effective July 30th, 2018 through June 30th, 2020 at $130,320 annually. 7 yes, 0 no's, 0 abstentions, 0 absent. Recommendation to appoint Stephanie Bradshaw as Director of Workforce Systems, College of Alameda, effective July 23rd, 2018 through June 30th, 2020 at $113,322 annually. This is funded by Workforce Investment Funds. 7 ayes. Recommendation to appoint Chanel Whitaker as Interim Vice Chancellor of Human Resources and Employee Relations, District Office, effective June 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019 at $200,966 annually. 7 ayes. Recommendation to appoint Jason Sifra as Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs District Office, effective July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2020 at $189,802 annually. 5 ayes, 2 noes, Ewan and Weinstein. Recommendation to extend employment contracts of the following regular management employees: Siri Brown, Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs District Office, $169,984. Salary, July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2021. 5 ayes, noes, Ewan and Weinstein. Chuan Chan, Dean of Academic and Student Affairs, Liberal Arts, Laney College. Salary of $147,319, July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019. 5 ayes, 2 noes, Ewan and Weinstein. Lilia Chavez, Dean of Special Programs and Grants, Merritt College, $124,655 salary, June 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019. 5 ayes, 2 noes, Ewan and Weinstein. Jason Sifra, Vice President of Student Services, Berkeley City College, $164,318 salary, July 1st, 2018 through July 30th, 2018.
Trustee Handy, can I
Yes.
just make a correction before that? So for number 4, recommendation to appoint Jason Sifra as Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs, District Office, should be effective August 1st, not July 1st.
Okay, thank you for that correction. So we are at, okay, so July 1st, 2018 through the July 30th, 2018. 5 ayes, 2 noes, Ewan and Weinstein. Peter Crabtree, Dean of Academic and Student Affairs, CTE, Laney College, $147,319 salary, July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019, 5 ayes, 2 noes. It doesn't say who. Rebecca Del Toro, Payroll Manager, District Office, $107,656 salary, July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2020. 5 ayes, 2 noes. Do we have who those are?
Same ones, trustee Weinstein and trustee Gonzalez Yuan.
Okay, on number 9 and number 10. Yes. Okay. Sadiq Akaro, Vice Chancellor of General Services District Office, $215,312 salary, July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2020. 5 ayes, 2 noes, UN and Weinstein. Tamil Gilkerson, President, Laney College, $203,980 salary, July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2022. 5 ayes, 2 noes, UN and Weinstein. Eva Jennings, Dean, CTE, College of Alameda, $130,320 salary, July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019. 5 ayes, 2 noes, Ewan and Weinstein. Brenda Johnson, Dean of Disabled Programs and Services, DSPS, Berkeley City College, $147,319 salary, July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019. 5 yes, 2 noes, Ewan and Weinstein. Amy Lee, Dean of Enrollment Services, College of Alameda, $147,319, July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2020. 5 yes, 2 noes, Ewan and Weinstein. Mildred Lewis, Dean of Academic and Student Affairs, Community Leadership and Civic Engagement, Laney College, $147,319 salary, July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019. 5 yes, 2 noes, Ewan and Weinstein. Sharon Millman, Facilities Project Management, District Office, $118,989 salary, July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2020. 5 yes, 2 noes, Ewan and Weinstein. Charles Neal, Director of Energy and Environmental Sustainability, District Office, $124,655 salary, July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019. 5 yes, 2 noes, Ewan and Weinstein. Denise Richardson, Dean of Academic and Student Affairs, Mathematics and Sciences, Laney College, $147,319 salary, July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2020. 5 ayes, 2 noes, Ewan and Weinstein. Petrol Shelton, Director of Deputy Sector Navigator Program, grant funded, District Office, $113,322 salary, July 1st, 2018 through October 31st, 2018. 5 ayes, 2 noes, Ewan and Weinstein. Etheria E. Smith, Director of Facilities Planning and Development, District Office, $124,655 salary, July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019. 5 ayes, 2 noes, Ewan and Weinstein. Sean Taylor, Director of Gateway to College, Laney College, $101,991 salary, July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019. 5 yes, 2 noes, Ewan and Weinstein. Tina Vasconcelos, Vice President of Student Services, College of Alameda, $164,317 salary, July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2020. 5 yes, 2 noes, Ewan and Weinstein. Pamela Wallace, Best Director, Laney College, $124,655 salary, July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019. 5 yes, 2 noes, Ewan and Weinstein. Recommendations to extend short-term employment contracts of interim management employees. Kimberly Ellis, Interim Registrar, District Office, $135,987, July 1st, 2018 through August 31st, 2018. 7 yes. Shamila Johnson, Interim Director of Northern Alameda Consortium for Adult Education, District Office, $135,987, July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2021. 7, yes. Kelly Lynch McMahon, Interim Director of Capital Projects and Facilities, District Office, $158,651, July 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2018. 7, yes. Sue Song, Interim Budget Director, Workforce Development and Continuing Education, District Office, salary $113,322, July 1st, 2018 through August 4th, 2018. 7 yes votes. Thomas Torres Gill, Interim Director of International Services and Student Support, District Office, $124,655 salary, July 1st, 2018 through July 30th, 2018. 7 yes votes. And Carolyn Tyler, Interim Project Manager for Maintenance and Operations, District Office, salary $113,322, July 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2018. 7 yes votes. If these individuals are present, please stand so that we can welcome you into your new position. Madam President, that concludes the closed session readout for tonight.
Thank you very much, Trustee Handy. The next thing on the agenda is the approval of the agenda, item 3.4. Do we have a motion?
So moved. I'll second it.
It's been moved and second. Do we have any amendments to the agenda?
Yes, Madam President, I'd like to make sure that, item 5.3 is moved to action. And item 5.3 is an independent contractor. It's an independent contract for somebody to do accreditation work.
We have item 5.3. Trustee Bonilla, I believe that I'm going to move.
Would you like me to call mine out?
Yeah.
Those would be to also be removed to action item 9.1, 9.2, and 9.3,
And can you read those?
as well as 10.4, sorry.
Can you read those into the record, please? Read the item title.
Let me find them. Hold on one second. 9.1, consider ratification of Amendment 2 for Tammy Manchard in the amount not to exceed $38,962.50 for additional project and construction management services at Laney College. 9.2, ratification of Amendment Number 1 for $112,000 for additional CM services for scheduled maintenance projects for Hayton CM Services. 9.3, approval of ratification of Amendment 3 for Roden Builders for $8,241 for repairs at College of Alameda. And 10.4, consider approval of Amendment Number 1 for a contract extension with Alameda County Sheriff's Office to provide police services to the Peralta Community College District.
Thank you.
Consider approval, can you hear me now? Yep. Consider approval of, this is item 10.4, consider approval of Amendment 1 for contract extension with Alameda County Sheriff's Office to provide police services to the Peralta Community College District for an additional 1-year term.
That item is already in action.
Do we have,
That item was already in action.
do we have any more amendments to the agenda? I'll call the question. We'll vote on the approval of the agenda as,
10.40, pulled that.
it's already on action.
Oh, thank you.
So we'll vote on the approval of the agenda with the modifications noted. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. Do we have a motion and a second?
So moved.
I'll second it.
It's been moved by Trustee Bonilla and second by Trustee Riley. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
We have one abstention from Trustee Withrow. Any,
I'm sorry.
Okay, we have 2 abstentions. Madam Clerk, do you have that? Okay, so the motion, so we said, had a vote and 2 abstentions, the rest were positive.
Can't hear us. It's the mics.
So we'll give our,
Test 1, 2.
we'll give our
We'll try to make the
audio
adjustments.
a chance to adjust. It looks like he's making that adjustment now.
Madam President, may I be recognized for a point of personal privilege? Brief statement.
Not at this time, Nikki, that wouldn't be appropriate. The next, so we have a vote on the approval of the minutes, and the next thing on the agenda is the Vice Chancellor Trudy Largent retirement recognition. So we are recognizing Trudy Largent for her years of service to the Peralta Community College District. And there's a resolution from the Peralta Community College District honoring Trudy Largent, and it says, whereas the Peralta Community College District Board of Trustees strives to honor those providing distinguished service to the students, the college, and the community, and wishes to recognize the extraordinary service of Vice Chancellor Trudy Largent, Esquire. Whereas Trudy Largent first served as Peralta's Vice Chancellor of Human Resources and Employee Relations from 2003 to 2005 and returned again to serve as Peralta's Vice Chancellor of Human Resources and Employee Relations from 2010 to the present, a total of 10 years. Whereas Vice Chancellor Largent's tenure at the Peralta District included excellence in administrative leadership, in recruitment and selection, tireless service as the district's chief labor negotiator for faculty and classified personnel, compensation, classification, employee discipline, grievances, and the investigation of claims of discrimination, sexual harassment, and employee misconduct, to include unparalleled response on behalf of the district to efficiently address complaints filed with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the Office for Civil Rights, the Department of Fair Employment and Housing, and the State Chancellor's Office. Whereas Vice Chancellor Largent's major accomplishments included the creation of the Peralta District's first comprehensive human resource staffing plan and countless contributions in strengthening administrative responsibility for Peralta's risk management, for safety and police services, for enrichment of staff development, and for furthering equal opportunity for all. Whereas Vice Chancellor Largent is among the best human resources professionals in the state of California. She has consistently shown the utmost care and empathy for any and all employees at a level some may have never understood nor appreciated. Her work ethic has been incomparable, unmatched, and always outstanding. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Peralta Community College District Board of Trustees honors Vice Chancellor Trudy Largent. Oh, my goodness.
I think I've already said a lot as part of this, but just want for Trudy to know that she has great reputation in the state of California among her peers. She's highly respected, and sometimes we don't know when we work with some stars how great they are. Other people sometimes need to tell us. They didn't need to tell me because I know, working closely with you, the great work that you put forth, as well as your heart and soul that go into what you do and the care that you show for each and every employee, regardless of what our status is or how mad we might have made you. So we want to say to you, Trudy, that you are truly one of a kind. Peralta and Solano Community College, where I used to be, where you spent a year with me, we're blessed to have had your service, and you will be sorely missed, and we will do our best to continue to uphold the standards that you have set up. So congratulations on your retirement.
We have one more gift. For Ms. Trudy Largent, thank you for your 10 years of service and dedication to Peralta Community College District.
Well, okay. For those who really know me know that I really, really, really hate public speaking, but I have to do it because it's part of the job. So first of all, I'd like to thank the board members for all of your support over the years, even through the most challenging times, because you made it worthwhile to do what we need to do, and it hasn't always been easy. So thank you for that. And Chancellor, I'd like to thank you for being the Chancellor and for challenging me and giving me the opportunities to soar. Okay, thank you for that. I'd like to thank a few other people. I see PFT members standing in the back. I'd like to thank the 3 unions, PFT and their leadership, Rick Greenspan, I see you there, Jennifer, Jeff, and a few others. We've had some moments where we have certainly disagreed, and I'm sure that'll be true in the future, but we've always disagreed with mutual respect, civility, and professionalism. And I've learned a lot, and I'm sure you guys have learned a lot from me, so it's been mutual, and thank you for that. SEIU, I see classified employees, but I don't think I see anyone representing SEIU, but I have a tremendous respect for them as well. Local 39, you know, they're amazing, and I want to thank that leadership. I think William Highsmith, who is the head custodian, the chief steward, I hear he's retiring, and I hear Tim Bryce is retiring in August, and he's on the negotiation team for Local 39. I want to thank Abby. I don't see her, Abby Brewer. She was the SEIU president for a very long time, and we certainly had a lot of working relationship, including with Helena Lingle. And I also want to thank the HR staff, which includes HR, benefits, risk management, employee relations. It's been a hard road for us as far as resources, if you will. But you guys have always been tremendous, and you're the reasons why I'm here doing this. So I want to dedicate this resolution really to the HR staff, employee relations, benefits, and risk management. I want to thank you for all the support that team has shown me, even through the bad times. So, as they said, I have a few regrets, but too few to mention, okay? I leave you with this. Life is not measured, someone said, by the number of breaths you take, but by the number of moments that take your breath away. So I would encourage each of you to reach out to a potential student, a current student, and create a moment where you take their breath away by our customer service and how we treat them. Reach out to your fellow employee and create a moment that takes their breath away. And you just might have a moment yourself. So, so long, and maybe I'll see you on the other side. Thank you.
Could we have the trustees back down on the, to present the One Peralta awards? All trustees? Whole team? Oh, actually, you can announce the agenda item.
Oh, right. So, oh, where are we?
Boom.
Okay.
Great.
Go.
No, good. You know.
So we wanted to take a moment just to recognize the One Peralta finance team for the work that they did for helping us upgrade and migrate to the new One Peralta finance system. Had our successful launch in May, and we've been helping people adopt the new system since then. This team has done a tremendous amount of work to help streamline our business processes and really implement a new system that's been, I think, a great success. There's been a lot of long days, a lot of sleepless nights for a lot of people, and we just wanted to take this moment to say thank you.
Do you want to call up your staff? No, we are honoring Chioma Nabussi,
Come on up.
Teresa Chan, Seraphine Nzumo, Louis Martinez. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, Martinez, pardon me. Shiram Abusumali, Nicholas Shear, Andrea Stokes, Carmen Fairley, Herzina Mendoza, Herzy Mendoza, Du Nguyen, and Juan Carlos Ramos. Mary Denise Jackson. So you want them all? Trustee Handy's directing traffic. She said, everybody come up here so we can see you. And on behalf of the board, I would like to thank you for your work that helps us meet our accreditation and financial aid responsibilities. And Chancellor, would you like to say something?
When we started One Peralta, we did ask for a lot of sacrifice from the faculty staff who were working with us on the project. To get the first module to be successful took a lot of work, but it was really great commitment and dedication of this staff that you see here that really helped the rest of us get to where we needed to be. So we want to say thank you for the leadership that you've shown, the support that you've provided to all of us, and we know that we still have work to do, but we know that with your dedication, with your commitment, we will continue to be successful. So on behalf of the board, on behalf of our faculty, staff, and students, we say thank you for a job well done.
And we'd also like to thank V.C. Cole for leading the effort. He stood before us and told us that it needed to get done and it could get done, and we see the team that was able to get it done, so thank you. I can't see V.C. Cole. Oh, there he is. You can see. All right, good job. Not an easy thing. The next thing on the agenda is the Associated Student Government Reports.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. I'm here representing Laney College, Associated Students of Laney College. I'm going to keep this short and sweet. We have 3 meetings this summer. One is on the 13th of July, where that one's a local one at Laney, and we'll be discussing our plans for 2018-2019 academic year and responsibilities of ASLC. And then we have 2 more in August, the 12th and 13th, and that one is a district-wide meeting between all the ASs, and that's going to be directed by all the directors of each campus, and that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any additional student government reports? The next item on the agenda is the Peralta Classified Senate Report. Do we have a Classified Senate Report? The next thing on the agenda is the District Academic Senate Report. Do we have an Academic Senate Report? The next item on the agenda is Public Communication. Trustee Handy, can you call the names of the speakers?
Yes. I'm going to start with the students. Camille Fisher, Leah Rubio, and Alyun Flores. All please come forward.
Thank you.
Okay. Could you give your name again, please?
Good evening, Board. My name is Camille Fisher. During the fall and spring semester, I'm a student at Mercer University in Georgia, but right now for the summer, I'm studying at Laney. Recently, I've heard some rumors that there are planning to be some budget cuts in the Peralta school system, and that the first place for these cuts to occur is going to be in the amount of courses available, if not now, then in the upcoming terms. I would implore you to please reconsider if this is true, because as you know, we reap what we sow, and if we don't put much into our educational system, we're not going to get much. And I'm sure you all know that education leads to more prosperity and opportunity for the people. And if we really care for the community, we have to put our best in to get our best out. So, thank you.
Hello all. My name is Allison Flores. Someone mispronounced and said Alyun. Sorry, my handwriting's a little bit illegible. I'm transitioning from my first to second year in the Peralta college system. I'm a student ambassador at Berkeley City College, and I am also a first-generation student. So college is really important to me, and I would really like to talk to you all about the budget cuts that are going to happen and that are going to directly affect the students. I really hope that you all reconsider. Fun fact, while my homeschool is at Berkeley City College, I've taken majority of my classes at Laney, and without a doubt, every single classroom that I've been in, there have been chairs that automatically sink to the floor as soon as I sit down. There's mold on top of the ceiling. Within the music department, the pianos, all of them are out of tune or they aren't working. And if the budget cuts are happening because enrollment is down, I hope you guys think about why maybe the enrollment is down. So with that being said, please don't make the cuts. And if you do discuss just whether or not you would like to make the cuts, I hope you reconsider and bring it up in the fall when there are more students to speak. Thank you.
My name is Leah Rubio, and I am a parent, and I would expect a lot of you to be parents in this room, everywhere. And I want the best for my child, as probably any parent wants for their child, right? So as now an empty nester, my child just graduated from high school. She's going to be going to college in the fall. I thought, well, gosh, what am I going to do? Who am I going to concentrate on? And I thought, well, how about me? So let me go to Laney College this summer. I work up the street on 7th Street, and I thought, let me take a class. Public speaking would be great, and I love my teacher. He's awesome. So as a re-entry student, coming back into the swing of things, I thought, let me just check this out. Allison is right. The seats sink. I was incredibly disappointed when I looked up and there were water stains on my ceiling of my classroom where I was going to find this new thing, right? And I kind of started thinking about my daughter, like what is going to be her experience? And if we're going to be making cuts, or if you guys are going to be making cuts to the number of teachers or the number of resources within the system, that's going to affect my kid. I can handle it. I already, I have a job. I'm okay. I want to progress. I want to promote. I want to move up in the system. And in order to do that, I have to get a little more education under my belt. But who I was really thinking about was my kid, my daughter. I want her to have that sparkling college intellectual experience when she goes into a classroom. I want her to be proud of the school that she goes to. I want her to be excited about going to college. And I was a little bit disappointed when I came into the classroom. Not with my teacher, with the classroom. Or with Laney. It's moldy, dark, stuffy, water stains, dingy, seats are broken. It's just not the place for higher learning. And regardless of community college, four-year university, it doesn't matter. It's all higher learning. And you guys have to remember that. And as you guys were discussing the salaries that were coming with the new people that have earned it and have probably already gotten their higher degrees, I thought, well, gosh, I want to make 165, 147, 215, 164. I mean, they've earned it. I'm not saying they shouldn't get that. But I feel like we need to concentrate on our kids and people like me that are going back to college too. But our kids deserve better, and they deserve the best. And that's what I hope that you guys really concentrate. I don't want to become like an autodidactic society where we all have to learn from ourselves.
Your time is up.
Okay.
You can finish your sentence.
But I just wanted to say that concentrate on the kids. Think about that when you're making your cuts. Because no teachers, we have to teach ourselves, or they're going to learn something else somewhere that's not as good as college. Thank you.
Our next 5 speakers are Jennifer Shanowski, Jeff Sanseri, Heather Dodge, Vina Sarah, and Tom Rimbarger. Could you all please come forward, please?
We ready? So I'd like to start off actually on a positive note and express some gratitude to Trudy. And while we have been on opposite sides of the table the entire time I've known you, and we have disagreed really vehemently many times, and often not resolved those disagreements, I really have always appreciated having, adult conversation and trying to work things out, and always sort of putting things aside and not ever taking things personally. So I congratulate you on your retirement. You deserve it. I hope you spend a lot of time on the beach, relaxing and reading things other than email. I also want to point out that tomorrow is the last day of the Supreme Court calendar for the year, and a really important case for public sector unions will be decided tomorrow, the Janus versus AFSCME case. And I want to announce to our board that the PFT is really strong in the face of AFSCME, or the Janus case. And we're strong because faculty have decided that they want to be members of our union, and we will stand together very strongly with a supermajority membership this year to fight, to really fight for faculty rights and privileges and ensure that the faculty are standing up in the colleges for students, as I know they all are here to do. That said, I'm really disappointed to hear the list of really long-term contracts that have been approved tonight in the face of this budget crisis that we are going to hear about later. To me, it's really a shame that the decision has been made to grant 2 3-year contracts at really high salaries at a time when we will be freezing 20 faculty positions next year. So that's 20 full-time faculty who will have retired this year, who will not be replaced, directly impacting students next year. We'll talk about that later when we talk about the budget. Finally, I want to say that the tentative budget, which is coming out tonight, and I will discuss later, but I want to bring it up now while we have an audience, is a tentative budget that does not include the cuts that we all know have been practically enacted outside of shared governance, and that tentative budget has a lot of issues that I hope that this board will really tackle. Lastly, I would like to applaud Trustees Weinstein and UN for making some hard decisions tonight and really standing up for what they believe is right in the face of what I know is a lot of opposition. So thank you.
Hi, my name's Heather Dodge, and I'm the head librarian at Berkeley City College, and I'm coming to address you guys tonight about the budget cuts. So after the semester ended, we received a directive from our administration that cuts would be made, and I found out that the library, half of our part-time classified part-time librarian and part-time student worker budget is being slated for cut in this next academic term. And what that will result in directly at our library is that we will have to reduce our hours. And I think there's some obvious things that you would think would happen when you reduce hours. Students will lose access to space. They will not have assistance from librarians or library personnel in evening or weekend hours. And students will be unable to access the collections that we have at the library. And I know everybody loves to say that they love libraries. I don't necessarily see that in action most of the time, but I think I wanted to give a little bit of nuance in terms of the types of services that our library provides, because we're not just a study space and books at this point. So some of the things that this will affect is when we looked at our demographics of students that check out books from our library, we found that nearly 100% of EOPS students at Berkeley City College have checked out materials from our library. So those are our most disadvantaged students. Okay, so what that means is that if our library reduces hours, those students will not have access to reserved textbooks, laptop lending. They will not be able to use computers or even print materials that they need to bring to classes. This will also mean that if we reduce our hours, which we will have to do, there will not be anywhere at Berkeley City College to print materials.
You're at 3 minutes.
Okay, after 7 p.m. And I guess my final ask of all of you is not to rush this process. It feels very rushed to all of us. And it's forced our college leaders to make some very rash and uninformed budget cuts, which puts our students at risk and threatens accreditation and undermines the quality of our education. Thank you.
You have 3 minutes. Your name, please?
I'm Vina Sarah.
Thank you, Vina.
Chancellor, trustees, and esteemed colleagues. I'm a homeowner and taxpayer and Alameda County voter and a Laney adjunct of 25 plus years. I love Laney. It's like a second family to me. I think it's like a little microcosm of the world, and we transform people's lives here. I'm also the co-chair of the media department, and I'm active on the technology committee, curriculum assessment committees, faculty senate, etc. But I'm not trying to tout my own horn here. I'm just trying to impress you with the fact that I'm very familiar and totally support the shared governance process, whereby only meaningful participation of all the stakeholders can we make meaningful decisions for the success of our students. Now, I and my colleagues here understand that there are budget deficit problems, we have to make cuts, but we shouldn't be trying to solve this by unsound kind of Band-Aid solutions like the summary directive of the 10% discretionary spending and 50% hiring freeze on the back of our already huge deficit of unfilled positions at all our colleges, and just given a week to make those decisions as well. And while at the same time, it appears that the expenditures at the district have been growing disproportionately to those of the colleges, et cetera. But I'm not really here to harangue you. I just want you to know where I'm coming from. And I know, just like us, you honestly care about our students and want them to succeed. I know that you don't come here bi-weekly to sit and hear us because it's so much fun. I know you have the same mission that we do and the same commitment to student success. What I'm just asking you is that we all work together, that you work with us so we can contribute to solving these budgetary problems and have us help you or advise you on your decisions with our own particular expertise that we've gathered in the trenches, in the classrooms, where the action really happens. So I have two requests for your consideration. Number one, please give us, the college, faculty, staff, administration, and the unions, a voting voice, a real seat at the table when you make these budgetary decisions. Remember, if you undermine the colleges by starving them, you ultimately undermine yourselves. And number two, please revisit your cut directive and have the district take on twice the cuts rather than the colleges. And just ending with the venerable words of Charles Dickens via Oliver Twist, please, sir, may we have some more porridge.
Your name, please?
Hi, I'm Tom Renbarger. I'm a physics and astronomy instructor.
I'm sorry.
Tom, oh, am I out of order?
Renbarger?
Tom Renbarger.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So I was here last meeting, and I mentioned that I have just volunteered to be the chair of the Student Enrollment Management Committee at Merritt College. We met again earlier today, and we're just kind of getting an idea that the job is pretty big. You know, we don't really have a specific charge to the committee, specific membership, bylaws. That's a lot of stuff that we're going to have to do. So we'll probably be doing that in the summer and into the fall. In the meantime, as my role as physics instructor, I've had this issue that we're not sure where the money is going to come from to hire the technician that prepares our labs, repairs equipment, maintains everything like that. And we want to hire him. He's a hourly employee. He's like a 20% full-time employee, so he doesn't cost very much, but right now the specific monies, we don't know where that's coming from. So how does this affect education at Merritt College? So if he can't do this, the dean actually asked me, can someone from chemistry do this? And he actually asked the technician from chemistry, and he said no. And then he asked me, and I said no, I need McKaylee. So if McKaylee isn't hired, then it's going to fall to me to prepare all the labs and whatnot. And 20% full time, that's going to take away from committee work. And so I would no longer be the chair of the Student Enrollment Management Committee. And given the fact that decreased enrollment is one of the problems that's given rise to this budget crunch, that's a big gap in the committee structure at the college. And then I just want to say that we're still recovering from the last budget cut. My predecessor retired in 2008, and I was hired in 2014. And so in the 6 years between my hire and the last retirement, there were no full-timers in physics. So we haven't actually been able to offer the full range of classes that we should be. So for the very first time next semester in the fall, we are offering Physics 4C, which is the capstone to the engineering and physics major sequence. This is the first time in 10 years we've offered it at Merritt College, and the enrollment's already at 21 in late June. And I don't think it's necessarily anything I've done because this is the first time I've taught it, but it's just the demand is out there, right? And this is a very prominent STEM course. This is, physics is a very prominent subject in the STEM area. So we've had a couple of African-American men, Latina woman, foreign students who've all gotten through Physics 4B, and just to not have that Physics 4C available to them really, cuts down on their options. So I would just like you to keep that in mind, and thank you for entertaining me.
Thank you. Next, we have Joe Doyle, Jennifer Brifa, Tom, we've already had Tom, has already been up. Okay. Sean McDougall, Chris Weidenbach, can you all please come forward? Joe Doyle, you're next. Next, Jennifer, and what is your name?
Katie Bowe.
Okay, Katie, you're in that group too, so you can come up in any order.
Hello, I'm Joe Doyle from Berkeley City College, Chancellor, Board, Presidents, my fellow faculty, students, and community. I've heard just in the beginning of these comments, I've heard the anxiety from the teachers and the community about the quality of our education and can we move forward together as a team. Constantly, I'm hearing the refrain, nobody asked me about it. Shared governance is an important and it is a legal requirement that we follow it. If we don't follow shared governance, what we engender is paranoia and suspicion. And the faculty and the students have to know that we are all working together for our mutual benefit. We're looking, the faculty and the classified staff are looking at a 1.5% pay cut. I think the administration here is looking at a 1.5% salary cut. We'd like to work together with you to make sure that that is distributed equally and that all of us sacrifice together as a team, not one side being suspicious of the other. Furthermore, can we make cuts in expenditures, such as consultants, to alleviate some of the pressure on the budget? And once again, these should be open consultation with the community, which is all of us. I would suggest that you bring your tentative budget before the PBC. Let the PBC do its job and work together with you. Let's work as a team. But as long as we are not sharing the information, we become suspicious of one another. Thank you very much.
Jeff Sinceri, they said you were there. Your name was called before. Come on up.
Hello. Oh, thank you. Apparently, I'm one of those guys that reads off his phone now. That's terrible. I apologize for that. My name is Jeff Sinceri. I am a history professor at College of Alameda. I am the president of the Committee on Political Education for the PFT, as well as the grievance officer. In that work, I kind of see, both ends of the spectrum because I'm forced to see the big picture and also the very smaller picture with the individuals that I work with, and the kind of systems that I'm kind of trying to work within. I'll say that in a lot of discussions that I have with faculty and a lot of citizens in the area, there is some concern around the budget cuts. And it's not necessarily because we're looking to enrich ourselves or we're trying to make anything better, but we have a lot of faculty that are really seriously concerned for their students. We have students that are here today. This is summer. I mean, it's crazy. And so I guess my larger concern is when we're talking about spending money at the district office at the expense of cuts that have to happen. And I understand that, there are financial realities that we have to come to grips with. But I worry when we listen to person after person, who are definitely deserving, and I know a lot of them personally, but announcing jobs that are going to be housed here. And I would love to see more classes, more instructors, more things directed towards the students that we serve. Thank you.
Katie Bow.
Hello, Peralta family. So again, my name is Katie Bow. I was hired as the full-time geography instructor at College of Alameda, and that was back in January of 2016. This is a position and a relocation to the Bay Area that I still maintain was one of the best decisions of my life. As an educator, my concern, as always, is for my students. But I am concerned by the lack of faculty input into decisions being made by the district office. I love teaching. I love teaching at the community college level. I love working with our students. And I love working with our local community. But within this profession, it was always my understanding that discussions about the well-being of our students, of our classroom, of our institutions, were something that I had a stake in. Excuse me. So it's disappointing that even if these cuts are necessary, that the mechanisms for shared governance are being ignored. It's summertime right now, obviously, and I'm teaching a few courses, but I know that faculty who have put their heart, their soul into their courses and into their institution are potentially going to arrive, back when it's fall, into a situation that we as faculty were not able to take part in. I want my students to have the classes that they want. I want my students to graduate. I want everything for my students, as I know many of you in this room do. And I want to do everything that I can to work on solutions to these major issues that we're facing. But the biggest obstacle for me and for other constituencies, as has been echoed here tonight, is that these opportunities are happening, over summer, over a time when we cannot be involved as readily, as we can during the regular semester. Thank you.
The next three in lineup: Jennifer Briffa, Sean McDougall, Chris Weinbach, Chris Gramps, I can't tell what that is, Kathy Steyer, and then that's it. So what's your name? Did I call your names? Can you please come forward if I called your name?
Okay.
Did you put in a speaker card?
Oh, anyone's, okay, I thought there was an order. Okay,
no,
cool.
No,
Oh,
I
good,
just
good.
want you to come on up. What's your name,
awesome,
please?
Cool. My name is Sean McDougall. I'm a math professor at Berkeley City College. Just one of my goals as an educator is to teach students critical thinking. And part of critical thinking, a big part of it, is being able to move beyond individual instances and short-term processes to think about larger patterns and larger processes. And so I'm here today to talk about something that's been in the news recently, which is the rise, and I'm going to connect it with the budget issue, is the rise of white supremacy, open-face white supremacy in our society. And it didn't start with Trump, but it's coming to the surface, and the question is, well, where does it come from? Right. If we're going to solve a problem, we have to understand where it comes from. And and again, it wasn't invented by Trump. It didn't start with Trump. One of the things that white supremacy grows out of is a culture where people are encouraged to focus on short-term individualistic thinking, reactionary forms of culture and identity, rather than a culture of solidarity where they can make connections and see their interdependence. And so my question for us as leaders, as people who want to be leaders ourselves and help the leaders of the next generation rise up and take their proper positions, is what kind of leadership are we showing? What kind of culture are we helping people create? Are we, in our processes, are we creating mistrust that leads to siloing? Siloing that leads to competition for scarce resources? Competition for scarce resources that leads to that vicious cycle of more mistrust, which is the cultural, the social, psychological context of white supremacy. You don't have to burn a cross or wear a hood to aid and abet white supremacy. We need to understand that. And so the forces that we're immersed in today, whatever we do, you can't be neutral in a moving train, right? So what kind of institutions are we creating? Are we creating institutions that build a culture of solidarity, that show our collective power? Are we creating institutions that reinforce narrow-minded thinking, short-term thinking that's destroying ourselves? And so I would encourage you, invite you, to ask yourself what kind of leadership, what kind of legacy do you want to leave, both in our particular work here in Peralta and in the impact we have on future generations in terms of the students we work with. And so I would, and I think you have a chance to actually do the right thing. You have a chance to let Peralta Community College District shine as an example of a different kind of institution. Because right now the institutions we have don't work. It's clear that they don't work. All right? I mean, you just connect the dots and see what's happening massively around this country, around the planet, that what we've built does not work. The most highly technocratic, educated people are screwing things up at a massive level, right? The financial crisis, et cetera. So we need creative, transformative leadership. And so I'm inviting you to think a little bit outside the box and figure out how to create transformative patterns of leadership within Peralta Community College District by being more inclusive, by thinking about all the resources that we all bring to bear in terms of students, staff, faculty, administration. The healthiest institution is the one that raises up the power of each of its components. So thank you.
Your name?
Good evening.
Your name?
My name's Chris Weidenbach. I teach English at Laney. I should have gone before Shang. That's a hard act to follow. I agree with everything he's just said, by the way, and I feel it is a little bit of a buzzkill that I'm going to talk about something that's kind of old. You know, it's not new. It's not transformative. It's the pattern. It's the pattern that we've seen for at least the last 3 years, for sure, at Peralta. A ballooning district office. What do we get from that? Some of the conditions that some of the students described. Not the place that's really attractive and comfortable and conducive to learning that students deserve and that our community needs. I'm going to share some numbers just to sort of make this real and factual. Blake Johnson put this together. Something that a lot of us who've been participating vigorously, openly, genuinely in the shared governance process as best we can, have asked for years. I've been asking for a real independent audit. I know there's a ton of resistance to that from people in the district office. And I hope the trustees would drive the call to open up the books and for us to all see honestly what's going on without creative or deceptive bookkeeping, without changing the numbers constantly. We don't even know what numbers we can trust when we hear from people at the district office. It's very hard. So I'm giving you Blake's comparison based on what we think are accurate numbers, but I'll be honest, we don't have much faith in these numbers. A similar sized district, this is the other thing. In addition to the audit, a comparison of similar sized districts in California. How much do their district offices cost? Los Rios is the only other community college district in, let me jump down here. Los Rios spends about $8,300,000 on its district office versus $20,300,000 at Peralta. Are they in a financial mess? I haven't heard that. I guess I also just want to remind everyone that everyone who's speaking tonight in this segment, in this public comment section, you know, your job is to be here. This ain't our job. This ain't our job. We need the district to do its job, and frankly, we need the board to direct them strongly. Apparently they need it because they keep spending way too much. They're too big.
Your time is up.
So that old line that I learned from Jabari Shaw applies now and always. When financial times are hard, chop from the top. Please.
Jennifer Rufo? Jennifer? Are you, I'm sorry, is Jennifer here? No? Your name, sir?
I'm Chris Gramp.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for your time. I'm Chris Gramp. I'm the chair of the Landscape Horticulture Department, and I teach landscape architecture. I've been part of Merritt for a long time. I came here out of high school when Merritt was down on Grove Street. I was here when it moved up onto the hill. I started working here part-time in 1986, and I've been full-time since 2002. I've been at Merritt most of my life, and it's a real pleasure to be here. I'm here tonight really, though, not for me and my colleagues, but for my students. And we've been through a lot of budget cuts since I started working at Merritt. I can remember so many times when faculty were getting laid off, when positions weren't filled, when classes were cut, and somehow the people who work here, we managed to survive. We managed to get by. I haven't seen anybody actually laid off, though probably some people get laid off, but somehow we make it work. The people who really suffer are the students, and I'm in direct contact with the students in my job. Sometimes when I go to committee meetings and things, we talk a lot about bureaucracy, we talk a lot about numbers, enrollment numbers, and somehow the direct experience in the classroom gets lost. But I see that all the time, as a lot of my colleagues do. And one of the things that I have to do for my students in landscape architecture are career education students. They're there because many of them are career change people. They want to get another job. And I have to say to them, you can't graduate for a whole year because your classes are getting cut. It's terrible to have to look someone in the eye who has put all that time aside, taken a huge financial hit to go back to school, and tell them, well, there's a budget crisis, somehow we mismanaged the funds again, and now as a result, you can't graduate. And it's a terrible look of disappointment on people's faces, and it screws their lives up really badly. A lot of those students don't come back. When we cut classes because there's 23 instead of 25, or if there's 16 instead of 18, the people who enroll in that class don't necessarily come back, and then everybody loses. So we start to lose the momentum that that we all need here as the people who work here to keep things going. So I'm really here to echo what nearly everyone else has said, which is we just really implore you to please consider not cutting classes. Cut classes as little as possible when you make your budget cuts, because none of us would be here without the students, and it's the students who are going to suffer a lot more than any of us. Thank you.
Are you Katie?
I am.
Okay.
I presented last board meeting as Catherine Steyer. I thought I could be more informal today. I came to say thank you to the Chancellor and the Board of Trustees. I am the co-director of KGPC Radio, and I'm speaking on point 6.7, subject to 6.7, for the contract for Aaron Harbor on your budget agenda. I would just like to make a case and say hello. I would like to speak in and ask you to please approve his contract and continue the great work you have done by supporting the radio station. And also, ooh, I got jittery. Really a short story. I'm in contact with students, faculty, professors over at the radio station every week. A tenured professor came through the radio station not too long ago, and they relate a story about telling students, hey, maybe this might not be the best option for you here. Let's try and find something else for you. Let's find something that works for you. This right here, this college we're at, might not be able to take you where you want to go. And so I would just like to stand in support with the students and with the faculty members and say, please be very careful and consider the students and the teachers and the services for the students when deciding on these cuts and deciding on allocation. It's very important. As a daughter of a mother whose only goal it was to see her children graduate college, I feel very fortunate that I got to do that. And I would like to see many, many more students graduate and get to have the same opportunities I did. So thank you very much. Thank you for your support of the radio station. We had a meeting with Chancellor Laguerre. Everyone is really excited about it continuing. And I'd like to thank you, trustees, for sort of championing us. And please continue to champion the students. Thank you.
That concludes our speaker cards for tonight.
The next item on the agenda is the Chancellor's reports.
Members of the board, administrators and faculty, members of the public, students, and classified. Just want to report on fact, we have had several discussions leading to the potential for the board to consider a parcel tax with some of our stakeholders. These meetings, we've had two. We have an extra one scheduled for Thursday, so we very much look forward to input that we are receiving. And most importantly, we want to make sure that we design the next parcel tax if the board puts it on the ballot, and if the voters approve, to be really focused on students, and to make sure that we are able to report results as we want them to be reported. We have certainly done very well with the current parcel tax, even though we have had criticism about it. But I think a part of it is the way that we have structured our conversations around it, and we want to make sure that for the continuation of this one, as well as the next one, if we have it, that we put things in place early enough to make sure that we don't have a repeat of those discussions. I want to also share something in regard to shared governance and the budget process. Shared governance process at Peralta Community College consists of a series of committees that get together focusing on certain aspects of our operation. For example, we have a district technology committee. So if we have issues dealing with technology, the technology committee, the district technology committee, is the one that we consult for technology and facilities and what have you. We also have a planning and budgeting committee. This is the committee that we are using throughout the summer, which I'm very grateful that it well attended, and great participation is taking place for our budget. While we had to make some decisions early, those decisions are not permanent, and they are being reviewed by our Shared Governance Council, in this case, the Planning and Budgeting Committee. So I want to make sure that the board and the public and everybody else know that we have not ignored shared governance. The PBC, the Planning and Budgeting Committee, our council is meeting on a regular basis when called to session to really give us input into the budget. Before the cuts are implemented, the council is being consulted, discussions are being had. I think the important thing is that participation should be strong, and people need to take ownership of their participation in the committee. I think that's really important for us to do. Finally, I'd like to end with a note that we have received word from the Accreditation Commission. As you know, a couple of our colleges were on sanction. We had to submit reports. Everything was cleared. But also we needed to submit a midterm report, and the midterm report was accepted by the commission without any request for the colleges to provide any more information. So that's That's really a testament to the great work that our faculty, especially at Laney and Merritt College, where there were additional issues that they needed to attend to, but also to the leadership of both institutions, as well as the work that is being done at all four colleges to make sure that we remain in compliance with accreditation standards. And finally, one of the promises that I have asked our district office to make is to make sure that we do nothing that puts our institutions at risk of accreditation sanctions. And so far, we've been working very hard to make sure that doesn't happen. Even though we are in the clear on everything, it doesn't mean that we need to rest. It does not mean that we need to stop working on accreditation. It's something that we need to do on a regular basis, and I commend our presidents and our faculty, staff, and administrators and students for continuing to work on accreditation. This concludes my report, Madam President.
Thank you, Chancellor. And congratulations to Peralta regarding the accreditation approvals and affirmations. The next item on the agenda is the presentation 4.1, the 2018-19 tentative budget.
Good evening, Board of Trustee members, administration, and constituents. I'm going to be going over the tentative budget for our 2019. That is, it's tentative, and adopted budget will be coming before the board in September. The budget will build on several major budget assumptions. Our general assumptions, basically, I'm going to go through the key assumptions here. I'm going to go through the general, the revenue, and expenditures. I'm not going to spend too much time because it's, I'm just going to make the key points. At the end of 1819 general fund unrestricted beginning fund balance will be at $15.7 million, representing an adequate reserve of 10.9%. The general fund, we're built this budget in 1819 on an operating deficit. That means we're spending more expenditures than the revenue we're taking in. Our tentative reserve, any balance, would be no less than the 5% required by the state. The district at this time do not plan to present any trans note at this time because we have adequate fund balance reserves. The revenue assumptions. We built this budget because we do a process of borrowing, and the district borrowed from the previous summer and also from the fall and spring count and this summer count. We estimate it will be at 18,343, but we did get good news from enrollment. Our count is up, so this is going to change in the adopted budget. So it'll be approximately 250 more FTS that's going to be added. Also, the cost of living increase of our base was 2.9%, 2.9 million. Our fund balance base increased by 2.9 million. Our unrestricted lottery was 2.6 million. Our maintenance and operation funding was 2.3 million. Our expenditures, overall, we gave step and column increases of 1.4 million. Salary incentive of 1.5% in 17-18 was allocated and it was decreased in this budget in 18-19 across the board. The PERS went up, the Public Employee Retirement System, from 15.53% to 17.10%, an overall increase of $402,000. Our STRS went up from 14.43% to 16.2%, an estimate of $799,000. We still pay the DPS program of $1.2 million. The OPEB, our debt service payment is $4.3 million. We continue to allocate money from our fund to support the OPEL Trust. Trust 1, we allocating $3.25 million. Trust 2, that will be established, we allocate $1 million. Also, our irrevocable trust is $250,000. Self-insurance fund, $400,000. Medical premiums of $15.3 million. And the utilities increase of 5% of $555,000, and healthcare increase of $338,000. Knowing that the funding, we built this budget before the funding formula was implemented. It has been changed, and the allocation is going to be based on 70% for our base allocation of FTS, 20% in equity, and 10% in student success. And then it's going to decrease from our FTS to 65%. Equity going to stay the same at 20%. For the next year, student success going to go up to 15. Then the next year, it's going to FTS base allocation going to be 60%, 20% on equity, and the other 20% going to be on student success. Okay, this is going on our FTES. This to show, it's a pattern to show where our drop actually happened in our budget. In 2014 and 15, our adjusted base was 19,502 FTS. In 15-16, our adjusted base was 19,528. That means we're funded at that for FTS. In 2016-17, we were in a stage of stability. What that means, the state was funding us at 19,528, but they give us a year. We chose this year to use the summer and not report it. That's why you see it at 15,000, but it should have been a little higher, closer to 17,000 FTS. So we were funded at this year at 19,528. We were down 3,785. This was when a decision should be made, what we're gonna do to increase our FTS or decrease our expenditures. In 2017-18, we was in a year of restoration. Our target was 19,528. We hold summer of 2017 at 17,046. Our fall came in at 17,763. Spring came in at 17,204. Our summer, we projected at 1,572. And our non-credit is 55, giving us a total student count, a projection at 18,343. At this time, we didn't meet our target. So the state will be taking $6 million before we close out this fiscal year from the district. We won't be allocated $6 million short. In 2018-19, we built the budget being hold harmless. Wherever we stopped at, that's where the state's gonna hold us harmless. So we built this budget based on the 18,343, and it's tentative because we have increased a little bit, so we're planning to allocate that additional revenue, approximately $1 million from 250 FTS in our budget. So this just gives a graph of the FTES, how they was, what we've reported in the actual FTS to the state. Just give you a little analysis of what's going on. And we're projecting we're gonna be whole harmless in the next year of 1920, because what the state has implemented a rule, they take the largest of your allocation. If we grow more FTS than the 18,343, we will take the higher. But right now we're projecting that since we're borrowing, but to get to the 18,343, that we won't be growing larger than that. We'll just be staying stable. This budget, I'm presenting this budget with the Measure B, which is the parcel tax into it, because it's up for it to being renewed. So if we don't renew it, I just wanted to show that the district is living in our Measure B, is actually expenditures in how our structure, we are in deficit. So the first column, we show the total revenue of 141.5. Our expenditure with the Measure B expenditures included is 153.9. Show a total operating deficit of 12.4 million. That is if we were living today without Measure B funding of 8 million. We subtract, the second column is subtracting the 8 million, which is the Measure B funding, which expires next year this fiscal year, at the next fiscal year, 1920, if we don't get it renewed. And since we have it, we allocate those expenditures over to Measure B. Our tentative budget still show a revenue of 141.5, and our total expenditure 145.9. We're in an operation deficit without Measure B expenditures of 4.4 million. And our fund balance will be approximately 11.4, which is 7.78%. And this is just a graph of what if we don't correct ourselves without any reductions or anything in our current year budget. We're projecting this year at 17-18 to end this year at 15.8 million. If the red line shows, if we had Measure B, without Measure B, with the expenditures included, we'll be at 3.4 million. And the next year, if we don't make any correction, we'll be at 12.2 million. The top graph show the projected fund balance with Measure B, because we have Measure B, so we allocate those expenditures there. We're projecting we'll be at 11.4 without any reductions, and the next year after at 3.7. This is the overall revenues. As you can see, 9.6 of this revenue is coming from our OPEB, from the trust. It's funding some of our medical and benefits of our retirees. 50% is coming from our local property tax revenues, and 61% has been funded by the state, 43%. Our total expenditures is 145 million. If you look at salaries makes up 52% and benefits make up 29%. Overall, around 83% is filled with people, and 17.8% is actually on discretionary. This was what the proposed budget reductions that is on hold until we go through the PBC process. We propose that by colleges and location, discretionary budget of each one is allocated. College Alameda is 1.5, 3.3 million for Laney, 1.8 for Merritt, and 2.1 million for BCC, and the district is 12.2 million. 10% reduction would give Alameda 153,000. Reduction, Laney 306, Merritt 182, BCC 208, and the district would take a reduction of 1.2 million. So that would be a total reduction in for discretionary of 2.1 million. Total vacancies. The vacancies was put on hold, so freeze, so we want actually fill these positions until a decision is made. Out of that, we phrased half at every site, and the total for College Alameda was 800,000, so we froze 400,000 those positions. 3.3 for Laney, we froze 1.6. Merritt 1.5, we froze 797. BCC is 1.2, so we froze 647,000, and the district is 3.3, so we froze 1.6. And at the bottom, you see the district discretionary by departments. Every department took the same 10% hold for reduction, and you see the roundup by each department, and that's a total of 1.2. So I'm presenting the budget if we took if the reductions go through the shared governance process and they are approved by the shared governance process. We start 17-18 at 15.8 fund balance. We're hoping that's where we fall out. Starting 18-19, this would Measure B, the first column, expenditures included. And down at the bottom is the reduction. So we projecting 141.5 million revenue, didn't change. A total of 153.9 expenditures without the reductions, and a 7 million reductions, salary and discretionary will give us a fund balance of 146.6. That's what Measure B expenditures. And we will be at a fund balance, an ending fund balance, if we didn't have Measure B funding, we will be at 10.7 million. So it'll be a 7%. But we do have Measure B, so we're gonna go to the end column for the tentative budget for this fiscal year. If we take the reductions, the revenue stays the same at 141.5, total expenditures 145.9. With the reductions around 7 million, we'll be at 138.6. The overall, we have a positive fund balance of 2.9, and our any fund balance will be 18.7, which is a 13% fund balance. This is just a graph to show what would happen if we took the reductions without Measure B, with the Measure B expenditures included, and without Measure B. If we stay stable like we are, if you look at 1920, I show that 18.3, and that's with Measure B expenditures not included, we'll be at 18.3 next year if we take the reduction, but potential if we don't take additional deduction and we don't get additional revenue, we'll be at 7.1 million the next year, because our expenditures increase. Our recommended next step is the district must define what is a healthy fund balance. Overall, we should be using the fund balance to support the overall mission and vision of our organization, and it's regarding student success. We need to have a healthy fund balance to support unforeseen spending in the area of operating and capital expenditures, and to support the overall cash flow of the district. Right now, the district, we're at a healthy cash flow because we have Measure B funding. And what we do not go out for a trans note at this time, but if we go out for a trans note, that would increase our expenditures because we'll be charged for the use of someone else's money. So right now, we move money from the Measure B fund to allocate to overall support salaries and expenditures in the area when our cash flow is low, depending when we get our funding revenue that comes in from the local property tax. The short and long-term strategic plan must be put in place to address the impact of the new funding formula. So we need to be looking at the new funding formula and the impact and where Peralta are we doing as far as equity and student success, and also our base allocation of FTS. We need to decide organization and restructuring. Do we want to be centralized district or decentralized district? Enrollment projections, are we growing, declining, or stabilizing? Do we have plans to do either or? Possible additional revenue stream. There's other options to allocate additional revenue to Peralta. We need to be looking at those revenue streams. Possible budget realignment and reduction. We are proposing some reductions, and hopefully, if we can do something to realign the district as a whole. Facility plans. We need to come up with a model of facility plans that overall support the districts, the classroom, facilities, if we get past this new bond measure, to support the overall students in the classroom, and an energy management plan to be more effective for our utilities. I hope that we continue fostering of collaboration, participatory environment with all our constituents. Any questions?
Thank you very much for your report, both of you. Thank you very much. Trustees, do we have questions? Is that a nod, Nikki?
Oh, yeah.
Trustee
But I don't need to go first.
Does anyone want to go first?
All right, thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank you for the work you've done coming into the district. I know you adopted a financial situation that was not of your making, and you've done your best to put it together and make it clear. So I appreciate that. I also want to just express my hope that as we move forward in this budget process, that in fact we can make significant and fairly radical changes in the processes. I'll just say as a trustee, it's challenging to look at the numbers and then actually trust them. And I hate to say that, but as a trustee, it's actually challenging to do that, in part because I know that the processes have been late in coming. The PBC actually, didn't get this before classes went out, and so, it's not really gotten a full vetting in this shared governance process. And because I myself have not been allowed access to the finance staff through the chancellor. And in fact, I've requested meetings with the chancellor for several months and have been denied. So just the credibility of the numbers is challenging for me, but I'll just trust them for the purposes of the discussion. And I wanted to ask about the ending balance that you've got projected for 18-19, which is about $3 million higher than the estimated actuals for this year. And I'm wondering, as we do that, why we're trying to increase the fund balance instead of investing more in the classroom. Now, I looked at the actual budget, and it looks as though the parcel tax dollars that are projected to be spent, we're increasing funds for classified workers, which, you know, it's like, I'm not saying classified workers don't do important work. Of course they do, but they don't generate FTES directly. And it occurred to me that if we were investing more into the classroom, let's say we took $3 million, $2.9 million in the classroom, we added 450 sections. It'd be about what that would cost if we were backfilling with part-timers. Even if they were pretty weak earners, let's say they had 20 students in each class, which is far below what we want, we'd still generate, I don't know, about $4.5 million of revenue, which, of apportionment revenue, which would be $1.5 million more than it would cost us to generate. And so I'm just wondering, why are we trying to increase the fund balance so radically when we're struggling for enrollment? And so I'm kind of wondering about the entire enrollment management strategy. Somebody earlier said, you know, well, there haven't been layoffs, and actually there have been hundreds of layoffs among part-timers so far. And I think that's something we just need to recognize. But more important even than the layoffs among part-timers is that we're not really serving our students as well as we could. So I'll stop right there with just that question. Why are we not taking more dollars and putting them into the classroom, even with lower FTES earning classes? Why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we prioritizing this spending on the college campuses? If we've got, you know, $12 million of discretionary spending here, it seems not quite correct to just everybody takes 10%. If the district has $12 million of discretionary funds versus the colleges have 10% of that, it seems to me that coming in deeper on district cuts would actually make much more sense. But I'll defer to I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Thank you.
Madam Chair, for the good of the order, I would just like to make one comment. Madam Chair?
Yes, Trustee Bonilla.
So I've observed time and time again, and it's really difficult when we pose these questions, when reports are given to trustees and given to the public. And I would implore all of us, all of our trustees, and I know it's hard, to direct our questions to the Chancellor. It's difficult. I know it's difficult. Direct to the Chancellor and let the Chancellor have a chance to either respond or direct his staff.
Thank you, Trustee Bonilla. I believe that Vice Chancellor Johnson did a very good job at explaining to us what the fund balance is for. And if she needs to go over the slide, I think that would be fine. But we have to have it for times that may be unpredictable. We need to have it because we have certain requirements such as STIRS and PERS where we are getting increases. We have to have it in case we have certain things that are unpredictable that may happen. But in addition to that, you may recall several presentations ago when we get some good news that our bond rating has increased. The improvement in our bond rating is also related to our fund balance. The bond rating allows us to be able to get lower interest rates on our bonds, and that is a direct savings to the taxpayers. And I think that in fiscal accountability, that's something that we cannot really overlook. We, of course, look at our enrollment. We look at what's needed. And I'll be the first one to say where we have high demands in our classes, we certainly want to take a look at, on a case-by-case basis, what we can do to meet the needs of our students. And so as we move forward, as we go through the shared governance process, we will be looking at everything that we can. In terms of the district discretionary budget, I know that it sounds like it is high. However, it has a lot in it that doesn't pertain necessarily to the district office, but rather to the services that we provide to the district in general. That includes our 4 colleges as well as the district office.
I have a question. Do we have any? I have a question through the Chancellor. I had 2 questions, actually. One was if there are cuts, and we see that there's been a budget without any, that's where there's proposed cuts, what is the process for identifying how those cuts are made or where they're made? That's one question. And the second one is about non-credit classes, which are estimated at 55 in the budget, and non-credit classes and co-requisites under AB 705 are used to help students who are underrepresented in higher education and who have an ability to benefit from higher education to be able to take their courses and be successful and work towards the graduation or certificate or a degree. So I'm wondering about that 55 number and what the district's simultaneous plans are regarding reaching more people in our service area that can benefit from the education.
Yeah, I'm going to, for the district office, Vice Chancellor Johnson can share the process that we use for the reduction at the district office. And I'd like to, as she's answering that, I'd like to ask our president to be ready to talk about both the process that they used for the proposed reductions from the colleges, as well as in terms of non-credit, where they see things going. And Vice Chancellor Brown, if you want to chime in as well on the non-credit, I think that would be very appropriate.
Well, as far as the actual freeze on position, I chose to put 50% because I'm looking at the long-term effect of hiring vacancies and actually down the road that the state is saying we're going to have a downturn, and we haven't did anything to stimulate revenue or FTS at this time. So I'm looking at the challenge of what's going to be if we hire these positions and actually get in a situation that we have to let individuals give them pink slips and leave. So I chose to freeze vacancies. As far as the 10%, we have a BAM allocation, and I did it across the board on discretionary, that every department, also the district office was be impacted, as well as everyone from the discretionary, so it can be fair. Far as the BAM, the allocation model that we allocate out to the colleges and also for the district office, there was no clear-cut way. But far as the colleges, we have a lot of restricted funding that we sometimes give back to the state. We're going to redirect that funding to be allocated to the college. So any cuts they made, they're supposed to try to make cuts that did impact the classroom, then affect students, and it was 10%. And that we're going to use restricted funding, that we have a lot of restricted funding source that needs to be reallocated to the college. So it'll supplement that actual cut they'll be taking.
How about the process that you used at the district office for the reduction specific to the district office?
We did the same thing. We did a 10% cut across the discretionary. And everyone was asked, we as a team, the district managers came together because a lot of people gave up more because some people had more vacancy positions. The process was never going to be a fair process because we, at this time, we're looking at positions that we have available. So some people redirected, they gave up positions more than they gave up their discretionary. It was just, we came together as a team to discuss what our needs are and how we need to take the cut, as well as everyone across the board. So
If the college presidents could chime in.
So at BCC, what we did is the college actually had about 50 people participate in a strategic planning retreat the week that we were given the directive to take a look at the freeze for vacant positions and then also the 10% discretionary. So at that retreat, we walked members of shared governance through, what we thought the process was going to be in the upcoming week. So for the vacant positions, what we did was we took a look at what the classified had prioritized and what was still vacant and what was in progress. We took a look at what the faculty had prioritized. And then there were some new unexpected vacancies that happened. So for example, we made the decision to freeze the web content developer position to save a head custodian position because the college was already down one custodian. And then similarly for the instructional positions, we met with the division deans and the department chairs, and we walked them through what the possibilities were. So they made the decision which instructor faculty positions could be frozen and which could continue. For the discretionary funding, we sat down and walked through all of the line items and all of the budgets. And on principle, we wanted to not touch any direct instructional programs. And we also looked at cuts that we were making in relation to what categorical funding we could use in lieu of cutting supplies, in the student service area. Similarly, in the case of library, their budgets had increased from last year, and so we do have other funds that we can use to offset the reduction in discretionary for library.
So for Laney College, we, again, the announcement came a week after, and so we did not have shared governance leaders and everybody around. So what we did is actually I called an emergency meeting with our leaders. So Classified Senate and the Faculty Senate were able to attend, and so we walked through the directive that was given from the district for the $300,000 cut to our discretionary and the $1.6 million cut to our vacancy positions. And it was really difficult. Quite frankly, it's over a $2 million cut to Laney College alone, which is really a disproportionate cut across the district for the colleges. So what we did is we tried to prioritize keeping cuts as far away from the from instruction as we could because the cuts are fairly deep. We had to make some difficult decisions about where we did, so we tried very hard to do that. So it was reviewed by our governance leaders and then also by the management group 3 times. We did the same thing with the vacancy positions, walked through each one and tried to decide but the number of positions that were already out for hire that were included in the target that we had to take, as well as the ones that were, in the process, made it very difficult for us to not impact positions that were in hiring at the point. So we had a week to turn it around. I think we did a fairly good job of trying to engage folks as we could, but there were also different messages coming, and so we wanted to make sure that we were giving thoughtful information as the process is going along. And so that's where we're at this point. And communication went out to the entire college, letting them know of the issue.
At Merit, we basically did the same thing. We had a very short period of time to review and figure out what we were going to do. Sat down with the management team. We went over everything line by line. We tried to ensure that cuts were as far away from the classroom as possible. There were a couple vacancies that we couldn't go anywhere else with it. Those that were allowable, legally allowable, we put on other funds and then gave up the Fund 1 and tried to maintain. We're still working on it. We still have some tweaks to do to it. But for example, we have to hire an athletic trainer. We wouldn't be in compliance. We'd lose our whole athletics program if we don't. Our trainer retired, we got to hire one back or else we're out of compliance. So we tried to stay away from the classroom. We did those things that, for compliance issues, we kept those. Then after we kind of got it together, what we thought would be would make the cuts not hurt so much, if that's possible. I then sent out an email to the entire campus community, at least those who are there, because we know many faculty are not, and asked as many people as possible, faculty, staff, administrators, and students, to come to a meeting. So they came to a meeting. I showed them what we did, told them how we did it. You know, this is what we came up with, asked for input. Most folks, they asked a few questions, but most folks were appreciative that we tried to keep cuts away from the classroom. And they looked at it and said, you know, given the short period of time that you have, we appreciate that you came to at least those of us who are here. We know what's happening. We're still making some changes to that, and I'll go back out to the campus community to let them know what those changes are, but that's the process that we used to try to get as much involvement, and so that our campus would know before you even knew or before we even sent it in what we were doing, and if they had any ideas different from ours that might work. So we did include as much as we could, possibly shared governance.
Vice President Miller is sitting in for President Karras, so he will share with us what he knows.
Absolutely. So I can't give you as much detail as President Karras could, but I know that when the directive came from district and we had the short amount of time, I met with the president. I know he worked with the chief budget officer, and in similar processes went through the details of every aspect of the budget to try to figure out how to keep budget cuts away from the classroom as much as possible. And so some of the offices, like my own office, the Office of Instruction, took cuts to discretionary budgets that have existed for certain purposes. We've looked at grants and other resources that we could tap into and still reduce Fund 1 expenditures and so forth. So, and then the president shared with the campus community a similar email to all the other presidents discussing what positions to be frozen were identified and how we were working to fill in and take care of the need and keep from reducing classes any further than we had. So that's about all I can share at the moment.
Very good, thank you. And Vice Chancellor Brown will talk about the non-credit piece.
Yes, non-credit was originally housed in workforce development and continuing education, and it has since moved to academic affairs in February. And so we immediately formed a working group that's composed of faculty and particular classified like community transition liaisons, district A&R, as well as our lead, Shamila, and AEBG. And we've had just these great, amazing brainstorm meetings about the need to focus on completing the infrastructure for non-credit and repackaging out what non-credit really is to clear up some confusion around what it is to encourage faculty. Non-credit really lives with the faculty, and so we're launching a campaign as soon as the semester starts in fall to clear up what it's about and what can be done. And over the summer, we're working on a whole kind of marketing campaign to talk to A&R about and give resources about their role in non-credit, counselors, just to bring clarity, and then of course faculty and students. So we've placed it front and center for District Flex Days as well, to showcase what's happened at Fruitvale and the wait list upon wait list last fall and spring for our first pilot community non-credit. So we want to clear up things for faculty and show them the exciting opportunities. Yes, there's wraparounds for AB 705, but also ways to reach students who may not have otherwise thought about being students, like what's happening in child development. And every single CIPD meeting, literally, there is new non-credit certificates being introduced by the faculty, from bridges to healthcare to all the ESOL courses. So we know that it's working, that faculty are seeing what they can do in creating some amazing certificates and curriculum, and we just want to take that up a whole notch come this academic year, including providing stipends for faculty to complete certificates that are approved by CIPD. So every semester we're offering more options, as well as more certificates are coming from the district for state approval. So we expect that steady increase will increase, and that we'll be offering a really robust. One of the big questions that we're looking at that we'll bring to the campus communities is sort of where non-credit will be housed. And so we're looking at the adult schools and some partnerships with adult schools, as well as what we'd offer in our campuses, so that we have a real clear plan and vision. By the time faculty come back in the fall, we'll have a good, solid draft vision of this plan for non-credit, so that we can create some structure and vision to where it is that we're heading and get buy-in from the campuses and our community, and then just charge forward. So we expect to see growth in this area every semester, as we have been seeing.
Thank you very much, Chancellor and college presidents. That was my question, and I very much appreciate such a thorough answer. Trustee Bonilla and Trustee. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so Chancellor, I don't know exactly how to word this question. Listening to the report and the cuts that are being made in the process, some of it sound like it may have been made like an equal portion, but I guess my question is about equity and then things being done equally. And so yeah, I don't know how to ask that question, but
yeah.
it seems that some things may have needed to be maybe revisited for equity.
And
for
that is
students?
a very good question, Student Trustee Jordan. And we talked about that at cabinet meeting we had on Monday. And the good example that we gave is that, say, if Merritt College decides that it's going to cut its expenditure in natural gas by, say, $10,000, what does that mean? Does that mean that the budget they had last year was probably over the $10,000 more than what they needed, and that's why they're making the reduction? Or is it that they're expecting a different winter season where they're not going to use as much gas? So those are decisions that need to be made, which is the reason why the budget that you have right now does not have the cuts in it, because we need to take the time to really reflect on each and every one of the reductions that we proposed. One of the things that we have to be careful with is that depending on how much cut you may make to a program, that may decimate the program, and that's not what we want. So we want to be very careful so that the cuts are made equitably, not necessarily equally, because equally may be harmful to some departments or some programs.
Okay. Can I say one more thing? Yeah. Thank you for explaining that to me. And I asked that question because Laney College is in dire need already, and the cut is very large for Laney College. And so that's why I asked. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Trustee Jordan. Trustee Bonilla.
Thank you. So it was so appropriate that you asked that question in regards to equality versus equity, because we did start a retreat early this year, that was framed by the difference between equality and equity, and all things not being equal. So equity is really an important feature that needs to be reviewed for each of the colleges, including the district. I appreciate the report, this tentative report that you have put before us. And just looking for a little bit of clarity, Chancellor, on this is a tentative and budget Not all of the shared governance folks are around to be exposed and to participate. We do understand that. And so I recall last year having a very similar conversation, and it just, I don't understand why we start this process near the end of the school year when we know that most of the faculty are going to either be away. And so I believe we were assured back then that we would start the process earlier, and that we would have full participation of all of those who wanted to be in. So can you address the timing of this relative to the conversation we had last year? And two, I think there's a lot of unclarity about whether this is a proposed, a tentative budget, or whether we are all operating and reacting to this budget, as I heard from the 4 college presidents, which seems like a very real reaction to some very real proposed budget cuts that they are currently working on. So I'd like you to address those two pieces. Thank you.
Let me take the second piece first. As you know, the legislature does not approve a budget for the state until about the 15th of June. Is the deadline that it needs to be approved, and yet we need to prepare a budget for the coming year. Don't go anywhere yet. We need to prepare a tentative budget. That's why it is a tentative budget, because we need to have something to operate for the new fiscal year. So we have to present a tentative budget to the board for that. And then once the state has finished its allocation, because the approval of the budget from the state doesn't mean that you have everything that you need yet. There will still be things that need to be figured out. So we need to wait for all of that. And that's why the deadline to present a final budget to the board is by September 15th. And that's when you have a final budget for that. Anything you want to add to that?
No, the tentative budget is just that, it's tentative, it's not the adopted budget. So we have times to make changes to the revenue projections, and if the funding formula has changed after the May revision. So we did, at this time, the state and the Senate, the legislation wasn't together. So we got a lot of data late, but we had built a tentative budget in our timeline. But as you know, we just getting final updates now from the state.
In terms of the preparation, as you probably know, from the get-go, we've had difficulties, whether it is staffing or assumptions that errors that were made in the budget that we had to correct. And it took really, and one of the things that you may remember, we lost our director of budget, as well as we didn't hire a vice chancellor for budget until January. So there were a lot of challenges for us to really be able to maintain the schedule that we wanted to maintain. One of the things that I've encouraged PBC is that we need to finish this budget, but we need to start on the new one immediately, the one for 1920, because we now have the pieces in place, and we should start the planning process right now and not wait for too long for that to happen. As I mentioned earlier in my report, the shared governance process, the shared governance body that deals with the budget has been meeting, and I hope they're going to continue to meet throughout the summer to get us to where we need to be with the budget. But this is not ideal. We need to do much better, and next year the signs are good that we will.
President. Trustee Handy and then Trustee Weinstein.
Chancellor, Could you tell us a little bit about what's happening in the Fruitvale and how that might impact enrollment?
Let me have Dr. Burns share the great story of how Fruitvale is becoming a whole lot more successful than what we have had so far, because we have a dedicated faculty member that has done a lot of work there. The challenge for us is space, and that's one thing that almost every time I meet with her, she reminds me that she needs more space at Fruitvale, and I need to support that. So, Dr. Burns.
And I have a proposal for you tomorrow. The enrollment at Fruitvale has been affected, however. There is a community that wants education and wants it primarily from merit, because that's what they're exposed to, although they do very well with Laney as, in addition. Right now, we're just going through, I don't think there's a limit to what we can do at Fruitvale. And this is why we've been looking for property. And we just found another spot that I haven't even had an opportunity to talk to the chancellor about, right on the corner of International and Fruitvale. And it's a 3-story bank, old bank, the old-fashioned kind of bank. It had a fire on the inside, so everything inside has been redone to the hilt. And so we're looking at how we can acquire that as rental property, as we're doing at 1900 Fruitvale, but we've outgrown that space at 1900 Fruitvale. Plus, where it is and how it's located doesn't avail itself to more folks coming in. The parking is very limited, et cetera. Just recently, they're doing remodeling at that site, and so they moved us upstairs to just a smidgen smaller, but enough to make a difference. So we're looking at finding more property, a larger property, so that we can offer more than only paralegal or ESL classes, because there is a need, a very huge need in the community. So we're looking for additional property. Did that answer your question, Trustee? I'm not sure if it answered.
I just got excited when you talked about the OYEP building. I pass there three times a week, and I noted that they finally finished the construction. That building has been out of sorts for many, many years, and the for lease signs are going up.
Right. Well,
and
we just went over and met with the owner and the broker and talked with them, but I haven't had. I feel a little bit, but I haven't had an opportunity to give the details to the chancellor, and I will tomorrow.
Just a point of clarification, what is the program that we're talking about?
We're talking about merit at Fruitvale. We have a site in the Fruitvale and have had it for several years, where we are reaching out primarily to the Latino community there who have difficulty for one reason or another, children, work, all of that, and they can't come up the hill. So that's what we're talking about. So we've offered ESL, psychology, we've offered paralegal classes to that community, and now we're looking to expand.
And if I could add, for Dr. Burns, this is where our big success is with the non-credit community service oriented certificate. And this last fall, like I mentioned earlier, it was waitlisted before it even started, and this spring as well. And this is because of faculty and child development, particularly Jenny Briffa. They really, really outreached, and it's so successful that we can see adding more sections of it. And so it's really a testament to what Dr. Burns is saying. There's just ripe opportunity. While enrollment is declining, we're really talking about the areas where it's not declining and how we can focus on those areas to counteract the trend that we're on. And Fruitvale is one of those, especially with faculty that have these great ideas and contacts.
And Trustee, I forgot to mention one of our big enrollments is in child development. That was the big one. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Trustee Weinstein.
Thank you. I want to thank Ms. Johnson for your presentation. I really appreciate it. So I think the issue of
how the cuts were made. I am curious, Chancellor, and maybe you can answer, how did we even come up with the idea of 10% discretionary fund? Where did you find that? And then the 50% freeze on vacancy, like how does that emerge?
Vice Chancellor Johnson can answer that for you, but I think overall, she has been analyzing our budget for several the months that she's been here, and I think took very educated thought of where it could happen. But if you would please add to that, Vice Chancellor Johnson.
It's necessary to make cuts. There's no easy way to be equitable at that time when you're looking at a budget that has been built, and people move money around all the time. We build the budget, we allocate a discretionary amount to the colleges. So what I did analysis from the past, how much in discretionary was actually expenditure, and that was not going back to the fund balance. That would impact students in the classroom. And we saw a lot of the funding was not expense far as in discretionary that goes back to the fund balance. We did say we have a lot of overspending in our salaries and benefits area, like, students, assistants, or hourly workers, or just part-timers, adjuncts that were add-on. But the discretionary budget, it wasn't never expended to the total capacity. So it was way over 10% for each college. We did analysis of that. So I said if we could take 10% that doesn't impact the classroom and reallocate the restricted funding that sometimes we carry it over, it's not being expended, or sometimes we turn that funding back in the state if the grant expires. So that's how that came up. I look at the vacancies overall. I look at, we need to cut lease freeze half our vacancies. And we was at a stage where I didn't want to be, people to fill vacancies, and then we started to have to let people go. I definitely know that planning, long-term planning has to come in, some long-term restructuring, long-term looking detailed analysis of the budget to do effective reductions or just stabilize the district's long-term for stability. But when you're looking at short terms, I didn't want us to go into another fiscal year without making necessary reductions to the budget that doesn't impact students, or refilling positions that shouldn't be filled without doing some planning as far as shared governance process, but we didn't have timing for all that to happen. But definitely, we do need those things, and we're going to be implementing those things in the future, because we probably need restructuring of the whole district. Like I said, decide if we want to be centralized or decentralized in certain areas. I'm not saying the whole, in capacity, look at far as servicing students and far as success for students. These students come before and say about the classroom, realigning the DGS budget. We've been doing a lot of analysis of that budget to see how we can be more impactful for students in supporting the classroom.
Okay. One last thing. It feels often like, to me, that we're constantly in crisis mode, that we have to make decisions immediately, or we have to make decisions yesterday. And I really want that to change, and I think it'll change with more planning and more joint governance. And I'm hoping that we can do that, because otherwise every year we're going to sit here and be in a kind of a chaotic process. Like enrollment, I really appreciate hearing what's going on with Fruitvale. That's like a positive thing, and it makes me feel optimistic. But I bet you there are other projects like that are going on that I don't know about. And I would love for our board to know about that, because it's going to make us feel as if, we're not just negative, but we are positive. And so could I ask that the planning, as you've said, Chancellor, the planning is going to start now. but that we also put enrollment management, which includes what you were talking about, that we share that so that we all have a sense of there might be some areas that we are not doing well in, but there are other areas that we are doing well in. And I'd love to be able to hear that on a more regular basis.
Trustee Bonilla, and then we'll call the question so we can move on at 9, because it's 9:20.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm even more confused now than I was when we started getting clarification on this. So, Chancellor, when we start talking about doing an analysis of discretionary funding that demonstrated there were unspent expenditures, those aren't reductions, those are unspent dollars that remain and exist in a particular fund balance or something. And so I don't understand when we have that type of analysis that didn't include the 4 college presidents, because again, I go back to my original question. This is a tentative budget, but I heard 4 college presidents talk about a reaction to a budget or to a reduction of expenses that sound very painful, but yet I just heard that there was an analysis done that said they never spent that money anyway. So this was an analysis that was done over a period of time, and it's just so I'm a little bit, I don't understand what was just explained to us. So if I can get, I don't know if I want more clarity at this point. It's 9:23. This we're on presentation. Food for thought, to be continued. I'm not happy about this process. Not really.
Okay. Then, thank you very much. We very much appreciate the presentation. The next item on the agenda is the consent calendar.
Madam Chair, I'd like to, we could go in and adjust the calendar. I'd like to, on the 5.1, I'd like to pull for another meeting, 7800, emeritus status.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to pull 5.1 from the agenda.
Okay. Can I get clarification? Are we just pulling 7,800 from agenda item 5.1?
I did not articulate that
Okay.
correctly.
Thank you.
Question.
So we need to take a vote on that, Madam Clerk. Do you need a roll call? And we got the nod.
Yes, please. Trustee Weinstein? Student Trustee Galan?
Yes.
Trustee Handy? Yes. Trustee Gonzalez-Yuan? Yes. Student Trustee Jordan?
Yes.
Trustee Bonilla? Yes. Trustee Riley?
Yes.
And Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
So now we'll move on to our consent calendar. That is item 5. Do we have a motion to?
So move.
It's been moved. Do we have a second? It's been moved and second to adopt the consent calendar. Madam Clerk, do we need a roll call?
Student Trustee Galan?
Yes.
Student Trustee Jordan?
Yes.
Trustee Weinstein? Trustee Handy? Trustee Gonzalez-Yuan? Trustee Bonilla? Trustee Riley?
Yes.
And Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the action calendar. And that is, we'll begin with item 5.3. We'll go in numerical order. 5.3 on the action calendar is, let me get back up on the agenda. Consider approval of the contract for the independent contractor consultant, Annette D'Ambrosio, not to exceed $91,200 for PCCD accreditation support services. We'll do a motion in a second, then have discussion, so we can open the floor for discussion. Do we have a motion? Do we have a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Oh, there was Trustee Weinstein. So we'll open it for discussion. Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen, that's one that, would you like to start off with the question?
Yes, thank you. I'm just going to say right off, I don't plan to support this, and I'd like to just try to explain the rationale here. We've just gotten full accreditation status. We have faculty members and administrators whose jobs it is right now to do this very kind of work, and this is a $91,000 expenditure. If we took $91,000 and we put it into the classroom, we just offered sections, we could offer an additional 14 sections that would provide, let's say you had an average seat count of 30 students, which is not outrageous as a concept. You generate about $213,000 in apportionment. It strikes me that in pressing times, if we're talking about like discretionary funding, at a time where we've just gotten full accreditation status and we've got experts all over the district, including very competent managers whose contracts we just extended for multiple years and faculty members who are doing this, this is a waste of our money. Or at the very least, it should be paused and really, really thought about. I can't do this. Thank you. And I just want to add, by the way, this isn't a personal thing about the particular person who has done immense service to the district and is competent, et cetera. That's not what this is about.
So what we're going to do is we're going to call, we have 2 trustee questions. We're going to do public comment as well. Linda, do you want to ask the public comment people, call their names so they know they're going to come up? Okay. So Trustee Nicholas?
Yep. So I'm looking at the contract proposal, and I don't know what the 8 ACC-JC recommendations that he removed from the district. I don't know what those are. Can someone tell me the 8 he removed?
So that question, Trustee, would you like to direct that to the Chancellor for some clarification?
There were several, so we go through an accreditation process every 6, 7 years, and that continues to vary. And once, so a team of college professionals throughout the state comes and visits the district. Each of the colleges as well as the district office. And when they visit, so in order for a college to be accredited, you need to meet certain standards. And when they came and visited the district and the colleges, they found 8 areas, and I can't remember them off the top of my head to tell you which ones they were, but one of them was that the Chancellor and the board should be working better together. That was recommendation 7, my own, so I know that one really well. And so planning and those kinds of things were issues that we have. The importance of it is that if there are items that the district is in deficiency of, the district office is in deficiency of, they sometimes would punish the colleges because of what the district is not doing. So you probably heard when I spoke up earlier that we have done the best that we can to make sure that the district office does not jeopardize the accreditation standings of our colleges. So that's what that is. So we had received 8 recommendations the last time the team was here to visit us. And I'd be happy to share those with you via email.
Thanks. And Trustee Handy?
Just to say, I do not share Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen's feelings about not needing this. I don't know if many of you have been here long enough to remember what it was like for all the years that we were on watch, we were on probation. The only reason that we are at this point now is because we hired someone to assist the colleges to do this. It was a task too daunting, and it also we were not all on the same page. All the reports were not coming in. We had to have a coordinated effort to get to the colleges to where they are now. And that was because we brought in that support. And now that we have gotten to that standard, it would be, I just can't imagine and saying, okay, we don't need that help anymore with all that else that the presidents have on their desk, on their plate, to say we no longer need this assistance to make sure that we stay right and tight with accreditation. So it was very, very difficult for past 10 years. This is not something that just happened overnight. All of our presidents are new, and I'm sure that they appreciate the efforts and the pain that the other presidents went through to get to this point and don't want to go back down that hill. So I just have to say I absolutely do not agree. And it also, as a trustee, my lane is to make the decisions based on the information that is given to us and in our observations. My lane is not to determine, rob Peter to pay Paul and put this money in this area, and especially because that is not my expertise. That is not my job. That is your job, and I trust your judgments when you give us that information. So it would be irresponsible for me to tell the chancellor how to do his job, to tell human resources how to do their job. I am a racial dialogue facilitator. I can do my job. I also worked in behavioral health. I can do that job, but we stay in our lanes. And one of the main issues that we had with accreditation was trustees out of their lanes, people not doing what they were supposed to do, people engaging in activities that they should not be engaging in that caused a lot of discord and problems with the colleges. So the trustees have worked very, very hard to make sure that they work collegially together and that we are the boss of the chancellor. You can smile and smirk all you want, but this is what our job is that we are doing fiduciary responsibility and oversight. We are not telling you what to teach in your classroom. We're just trying to make sure that you have a classroom there. Thank you.
I see you, Nikki, but you did speak already.
I'm not into debate, Nikki. I've said what I need to say.
We'll call the question. We had a request to call the question. Is there anyone that hasn't spoken yet that wants to speak? Yes.
We're getting to.
And we're not, yes, we're gonna take public comment, and we have a card. Is there anybody else that submitted? We have one? Okay.
For this item.
Can I just make a comment, just a quick comment? So, although I think it's critical to have the support and expertise to make sure that we don't fall into the problems that we had in the past with ACCJC. And I do know that accreditation happens every day, 365 days out of the year, or for excluding all the times that we're shut down. That's clear. This doesn't go away. This isn't something we think about every time we get a visit. But I am a little concerned that we would engage in a contract like this for 48 weeks, which is almost an entire year. And so, Chancellor, can you explain the rationale for such an extended period of time that we would engage in a contract like this?
First of all, I need to share with you that I was fairly new when I came to the district, and a respected senior faculty member was meeting with me and some other folks, and suggested to me that unless we have someone who is helping us keep abreast of what's going on with accreditation and supporting us, we are always going to have this problem. And he suggested at the time that I seek additional help so that there could be somebody who's always watching over that for us. with accreditation, it's fairly easy. You know that you have your accreditation now. It'll be another 3 years before anybody shows up for you to relapse and really not pay attention. And then when you know the commission is coming back, that's when you scramble. And then it usually shows. It's like students who study and write their papers at the last minute. It shows that you're not really ready. The commitment that I've made to the district is that the district office will do its best to make sure that we do not jeopardize the accreditation standards of our colleges. For us to have someone to help both the district office and the colleges to stay abreast of what's going on is really important. And the work of accreditation goes on, as you said, every day. A big part of what will be observed is with the minutes of your shared governance committees, how they are posted, how regularly they meet, and all of that. And as I think that we've been hearing more, we need more shared governance and not less. Having someone who can support us in that endeavor is one of the many tasks that I think is regular for us to really have going on. But I didn't really show up and say that I need to make sure that we have somebody that we can spend money on for accreditation, but rather it was a wise faculty member who knows the district and our history of not meeting accreditation standards, who suggested to me that be done. And I think it was a wise piece of advice that was given to me. And I think that the results have shown for themselves. If we think that we are good, we no longer need help, that's when we're going to fall. And I don't want to witness that happen.
My apologies. We should public comment now. Sorry for the change there.
My comment. So I just want to address the idea of staying in one's lane. I agree that we all have different roles that we play within the district, but part of the 10+1, which is the work that is really for the faculty and the purview of faculty, is accreditation, including the self-study and annual reports. And my concern here is that this is, $92,000 a year for someone to do what is essentially faculty work, right, at a time when we are freezing 20 full-time faculty positions across the district. If we can freeze 20 full-time faculty positions, right, why can't we use a full-time faculty member to do that work? Why are we contracting out work that is explicitly in the 10+1? So I do agree that, we should all be cognizant of our fiduciary responsibilities, and one of those is to really think about the long-term consequences of all of these independent contractors and the way that we're contracting out work that really belongs, right, at the colleges. The colleges are accredited, not the district, and really should be part of the knowledge going forward of faculty, now and into the future, and not be depending on an independent contractor to do that work. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you for your comment. So, Madam Clerk, do you need a roll call vote?
I'd like to be recognized, please.
Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen.
Thank you very much. I'll make this brief. This isn't a time-sensitive issue. We've got years until the next accreditation team comes. This could be made in the fall. We've got time for this. I understand about staying in the lane, and I understand about one's role, but frankly, if we weren't being asked to vote on it, I would think that maybe it was my business. People sometimes use the word micromanaging, when they see trustees doing stuff, but it's usually when they see trustees doing stuff that they don't particularly like. And I've seen members of this board frequently disagree with the administration and vote against the administration on matters just like this. So, if we're going to talk about staying in the lane, then let's just approve everything that the administration puts in front of us without any debate or discussion all the time. But I don't think that, in fact, is what we're elected to do. So I urge my colleagues to at least defer, put this off. This isn't time sensitive. We're in a budget crisis. We've got better ways to spend the money. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Gonzalez. Madam Clerk?
Student Trustee Galan.
I abstain.
Student Trustee Jordan.
No.
Trustee Weinstein.
Can I just ask again, what are we voting on specifically? To defer it or to not do it?
The motion on the floor is 5.3, item 5.3 to adopt it, and Trustee Nikki had made an appeal.
Oh,
but
to
it
not,
wasn't
to
a
not,
motion.
right? To-
Yes, he made an appeal to not, but it wasn't a motion. Well, if this one fails, then we could take another. Oh, I'm sorry. Right. That's what I was clarifying, that Trustee Weinstein was saying, what are we voting for? We're voting yes or no on 5.3, and I was saying the comment before wasn't actually a motion. We would have to go through this motion process, it would have to be voted on, and if it fails, then we could take another motion. But that's where we are right now. We have a motion on the floor, which is to accept or reject 5.3.
Okay, so I reject it.
Trustee Handy.
I'm voting. No.
Trustee Handy, yes. Trustee Gonzalez Yuan. Trustee Bonilla. Trustee Riley.
Yes.
And Trustee Brown.
Yes. The motion doesn't pass.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on. Next item.
So we're going to move on to item 9.1. Item 9.1 is consider ratification of amendment number 1 for $112,000 for additional construction management services for scheduled maintenance projects for Hatton CM Services. We have a motion if we have a motion and a second, then we'll open the discussion.
So moved.
Oh, wait, that's wrong. I read 9.2, not 9.1. 9.1 is consider ratification of amendment number 2 for Tammy Marchand in the amount not to exceed $38,962.50 for additional project and construction management services at Laney College. We need a motion and second for 9.1.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and second. Trustee Bonilla, would you like to?
Yes, yes. I know that we are going to approve this because this contractor must be paid. And that will move forward for some of the other items that I pulled as well. However, it is important, and we have been talking about this. I am moving into my 4th year as trustee, and we are dealing with some of the same procurement inconsistencies and contract issues for this district that just make me not want to run again for trustee. And with that, there are so many inconsistencies and problems with this. One beginning with a correction that says that we approved Amendment 1 for $75,500 on October 10th of 2018. Right, that hasn't happened yet, yes. So 1 is to please correct for the record that that was most likely a typo for 2017. And again, my biggest heartache and issue with this is that we continuously produce procurement dollars just under the threshold, only to come back before us for a contract change for $75,000, and then another contract change for an additional 30-something thousand. And at the end of the day, we're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars for
change orders on procurement issues that were never brought before the board, and what a predicament we are put in terms of our own fiduciary responsibility and oversight of public dollars.
I would like
We
to.
need to do better. I'm sorry, we just need to do better. Thank you.
This item, actually, I would like to note that it's been taken off the agenda, or it's been actually pulled and reworked. The council can confirm, but I think that I've seen the challenge that legal counsel has in working with the facilities group regarding contracting, and it is it's an untenable situation because it is continued year after year after year. I've been a trustee for 5 years, and for those years that I was actually an officer, it's consistently pulling contracts and sending them back to be reworked, and our legal counsel spending time that they could be spending otherwise, reworking contracts because there's not a set system, there's not a level of discipline and review that should be standard. And I say this because it has been an inordinate amount of time that we've tried to work through this. We do have some proposals for restructuring, but the performance absolutely has to change. It's not appropriate at an appropriate level of I would say due diligence in terms of what is presented. There's no reason that a contract for construction management services should start below the approval and then have multiple amendments and then come on the last day that it's time to, or the last board meeting to approve before the fiscal year ends and we're faced with not getting a contractor paid or approving it. Our choice would be to reject it and then have to go back and work out some sort of settlement or have someone done an injustice. And that, I think, is an injustice to the process and to the board, and we can't state more strongly that this process is not acceptable and has to end. I've been asked to call the question. I think there's just an expression of discontent. Madam Clerk, would you take the roll call?
Student Trustee Galan?
Yes.
Student Trustee Jordan?
Let's call the question, so you have to vote.
Do you want me to move on?
Yes.
Okay. Trustee Weinstein? Trustee Handy? Trustee Gonzalez-Yuan? Trustee Bonilla?
Yes.
Trustee Riley? Trustee Brown?
Yes.
And Student Trustee Jordan?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
The next item on the agenda is 9.2. Consider ratification of amendment number 1 for $112,000 for additional CM services for scheduled maintenance projects for Hatton CM Services. We need a motion
So
and a
moved.
second. Did I hear a motion?
Yes.
Trustee
so
Bonilla,
moved, yes.
second? A second. Trustee Riley. The matter's open for discussion.
So again, I will repeat myself, and it is disheartening, and it is an abuse of public dollars in the procurement process that we would start a contract at $14,900 only to be brought back with amendments 1, 2, and 3 for a total of $155,296. I'm ashamed. I am ashamed. We cannot continue to do business like this. Thank you.
Do we have any further? There's been a request to call the question. Madam Clerk.
Student Trustee Galan?
No.
Student Trustee Jordan?
point of clarification, Chair. So they already did this work?
Regrettably, yes, they have done the work, and what it's called, because it says ratification, which means that it's not, it's retroactive as opposed to prospective.
Okay. Yes.
Trustee Weinstein?
Yes, and regrettably, this is extremely frustrating, and I hope we can change it.
Trustee Handy? Trustee Gonzalez Yuan?
Yes.
Trustee Bonilla?
Yes.
Trustee Riley?
Yes.
Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
The next item on the agenda is 9.3, consider approval of ratification of Amendment 3 for Rodan Builders for $8,241 for repair at College of Alameda. We need a motion and a second, and then we could begin discussion.
So moved.
It's been moved
I'll second
and
it.
second. Is there any discussion? Trustee Bonilla?
No, I withdraw my discontent. I think you all know where I stand on this.
Question. Call question.
There appears to be no further discussion, Madam Clerk.
Student Trustee Galan?
Can you come back to me, please?
Sure. Student Trustee Jordan?
Yes.
Trustee Weinstein? Yes. Trustee Handy? Trustee Gonzalez Yuan? Trustee Bonilla? Trustee Riley? Trustee Brown?
Yes.
And Student Trustee Galan?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
The next item on the action calendar is consider, we have two speakers, okay, on which item? 10. Okay. The next item is 10.1, consider approval of Resolution 17/1847 to reduce, eliminate certain services and provide related layoff notices. Do we have a motion and a second?
I'll move that.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on item 10.1?
Yes, I have a question.
Trustee Weinstein.
So is this actually asking the question that we should, that we're okaying that we're laying people off? Or is it that we are doing the process to lay people off? Are we okaying the process or the actual laying off?
Essential logic.
Thank you, Chancellor. We're actually not laying off. We are eliminating these two positions for lack of funds. So it's the elimination of the positions, and then employees have bumping rights and rights to be placed into another position based on their seniority. But those two positions, because they're grant funded and the funds have run out, we're eliminating those two classifications.
Is there any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, I'll call the question regarding item 10.1. Madam Clerk? Oh,
I'm
did I
sorry,
miss it?
just one more.
Okay.
But it's, so the people are getting, they can bump up or bump to a different, but they're not guaranteed that.
Well, their positions are being eliminated, so based on their seniority, they would have the right to bump into a position in which they have more seniority than the person who's in that position. And the district has always tried to make a point when we've had these situations where we eliminated positions, not to actually lay off a person where they're actually unemployed. We try and place them in vacant positions or other positions.
Okay, thank you.
I have a follow-up question through the chair.
Yes, Trustee Bonilla.
These are grant-funded classified positions, correct, Chancellor?
Yes, they are.
And these grants had a particular duration?
That is correct.
So we knew when we hired for these positions that they would come to an end at some point.
Yes, the potential was there for that to happen.
Okay. Is this the normal customary process for eliminating positions that are directly tied to grant-funded positions?
Western Hill Argent.
Thank you. Yes. Pursuant to the Ed Code, classified employees, regardless of whether it's general funds or grant funds, have rights during the elimination of that process. So this resolution is in recognition of compliance of the Education Code, even though those employees were funded their positions through grant funds.
Thank you for that. And one more clarification. So if said employees are negatively impacted by way of termination, or they have no seniority in any other departments, they're still granted their full rights for unemployment and any other compensation that's forthright in coming to them under normal circumstances, right?
Yes, and pursuant to the Ed Code, those employees who are actually laid off from the position and unemployed, they have the right to be placed on a 39-month reemployment list, and then when these positions become available, they have a right to actually come back within the 39 months.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
It's been asked that we call the question.
Student Trustee Galan?
No.
Student Trustee Jordan?
No.
Trustee Weinstein?
No.
Trustee Handy? Trustee Gonzalez Yuan?
Yes.
Trustee Bonilla?
Yes.
Trustee Riley? And Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Next item on the agenda is 10.2, consider approval of Resolution 1718-49 to renew the contract for the 2018-19 fiscal year with the California Department of Education to provide child care and development services, and to authorize resolution to local agreement number CSPP-8020.
So move. Second.
We've got a motion and a second. We'll have, is there any discussion, or do we, the public comments on which item? Why is it closed? Okay. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Student Trustee Galan?
Yes.
Student Trustee Jordan?
Yes.
Trustee Weinstein?
Yes.
Trustee Handy? Trustee Gonzalez Yuan? Trustee Bonilla?
Yes.
Trustee Riley? Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Next item on the agenda is 10.3, consider approval of the Peralta Community College District 2018-19 tentative budget. Do we have a motion and a second?
I'll move it.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any, we have public comment. Is there any discussion? Trustee Gonzalez Yuan.
I believe do we have public comment? Because I think we're supposed to hear public comment before.
We're not voting, we're doing discussion, and then we're going to hear public comment, and Brown Act, you do public comment before you vote, so we're going to do public comment.
All right. So earlier in the evening, we did a readout of administrative hires, and I wanted to clarify something about the way I'm thinking about this budget and how it related to that, because I don't want individual administrators to feel like my vote not to renew the contract was in any way personal. So I just want to explain that on principle, right now, I don't believe we should be expanding any positions at the district office, making new positions. I think if we've got a hiring freeze, just freeze across the board, we shouldn't be making new positions. And secondly, I don't think we should be extending contracts more than a year for any administrator right now. That's not about the merit of a particular administrator. We have a lot of really good administrators who, under normal circumstances, we would readily extend those contracts. So I wanted to clarify that so that in the public record, and then because I have personal relationships with some of these people, and I don't want them to feel like, oh yeah, it was you, you know. So having said that, I also wanted to just indicate that I've got deep concerns about the budget and the budget process, and I'm hopeful. Well, actually, I'm not hopeful about the future of that budget process. But if that budget process does not deeply engage faculty and staff throughout the district, and if the district budget is not held to the same standard of accountability that the other colleges, that the colleges are held to, then I won't be supporting the budget. So thank you.
Do we have any further comment on
Yeah.
Trustee Weinstein?
Yeah, I'm going to say similar so that it's on record. I really respect and appreciate the work that people have done. For me, I am concerned about the budget and am cautious I'm going to be cautious every single year that we're able to meet our obligations. So that's why I did not support the idea of a long-term contract, but I do support the people. I would like to vote no against this budget, but it is a tentative budget, and so I hope that we can do work and planning and all sorts of things between now and September and see if we can make this work.
Trustee Bonilla.
So my final comments about the budget ended with a little bit of confusion about the analysis that had taken place to create a tentative budget, and a deep concern that our college presidents were not a part of that analysis. I don't want to use the word hope, but I also want to be very respectful in that that I feel that this body, this Board of Trustees needs to give very clear and direct guidance to our chancellor to move forward cautiously and collaboratively in building your budget with your key stakeholders. And I feel very strongly about that. So I will definitely support this tentative budget, and I look forward to receiving updates on the collaborative and innovation that goes into developing the actual budget that we will move forward in September. Thank you.
Trustee Handy.
So I just need clarification. When you previously, Trustee Bonilla, asked the chancellor about some inconsistencies about the president's involvement and the assessment, but then you cut it off so we didn't get a response. But now you just responded as fact. So I would like to go back because there are mixed messages out there. So I would have liked to have had you go on and clear up because it's, one, we're hearing that they're involved. I'm hearing from them their involvement. And then they hear that question, but then without giving the chancellor a chance to respond. And then I hear a statement about the response that we didn't get. So I would really like to have a clarification coming from the chancellor and Vice Chancellor Johnson.
So, Chancellor, would you, okay, so let me back up. Trustee Handy, can you state what question you want to put to the chancellor?
Trustee Bonilla brought up what she considered an inconsistency.
I can
That was a
restate.
question that she brought out.
What I'd
Yeah.
like to ask is just, I would like to ask what question would be put to the chancellor so that we can have the chancellor answer, provide the clarification, and then proceed with the vote.
Okay.
So is the question, Chancellor, what was the process, or to what extent was there college president's involvement or shared governance involvement with the tentative budget? Is that the question?
And there was a specific piece about the assessment. That was the question.
The assessment, are you talking about?
Analysis, I'm sorry.
Okay.
About the analysis.
All right.
That
Chancellor,
was
was that clearly articulated for you?
Sure, sure.
What I said, and I think Vice Senator Johnson added to that, is that before coming to an understanding of what would be provided as far as recommendation to either do reduction 10% or freeze half of the vacancies, she did spend time looking at the entire district budget, analyzing expenditures and what have you. Now, one thing that I think that's of caution is that because one looks at a budget and you see that it wasn't spent does not tell you the story. There could be all kinds of reasons why it didn't, some expenditures didn't happen, which is the reason why giving the presidents as much leeway as they can to come up with the numbers that they need to reduce the budget is really important. I must say that when we say 10% across the board, it's really up to the presidents to look at their budgets, independent of any analysis that the vice chancellor might have done, to really come up with what they believe is the right place to make budget reductions.
I just wanted to add on that fact that the tentative budget is not billed with any cuts in it. That went through the process, the regular process. So the tentative budget you're voting on has no reductions in it at all. The reductions is going through the PBC process as we speak. And if we make any reductions, it's going to be in the adopted budget, not in this tentative budget.
Does that provide clarification for the trustees?
No, I thank you for the clarification, but what I was pointing out was that based on what you said, Trustee Bonilla made a statement that what she heard.
I can restate so that everyone's clear about what I said.
So, point of order, what we're trying to make sure of is that while the meeting is in progress and we have the people here to answer the questions, that we could ask the questions to get them answered. And of course, the trustees are welcome to, as long as there's not a quorum, ask each other what their thoughts are afterwards. So, given that it's 10:07 and we have at least one other item that's of great importance and will require discussion, I say that if the clarification has been provided by the people that are here, let's call the question and do the vote.
I still think it's like.
You can still ask that question.
Other stuff, so Madam Clerk. Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. Thank you for reminding me.
It's a good question, it's a brave question. Just let Meredith know.
I have a couple of quick comments on the budget that I would like to put on the record. One is regarding the planning. So I also remember being here last year at this time and talking about the fact that we were doing a rollover budget where expenditures did not match what was being budgeted. And there were all these discrepancies between how things are budgeted and how things are spent. And we were told last year that we would do better this year. And I'm on those shared governance committees, and so I know that we were constantly clamoring to do better this year, and we didn't. We got this budget book after the semester was over. I don't blame any individuals. I know there's been a lot of turmoil, but we are constantly, rotating through people. We've had the positions filled for the most part by someone that's paid a lot of money to do the work. So one would hope that we could have done better over this year when we had all the attention focused on the budget, and we didn't. And so there's a lot of mistrust over promises made and not kept. So that's about the planning. The other thing is, it was stated in response to the question about the planning, why wasn't it done better this year? And one of the responses was that we don't get the budget until June 15th when the state, passes the final budget. We talked about that last year, and we said last year, the January tentative budget that comes out of the state, that does provide a good basis for us to put together a budget. We also have trend analysis. Like, things don't generally change that dramatically from year to year. This year, obviously, they are changing. But there is a lot we can do before June 15th. So to rely on that as the excuse for why we're not doing better, I feel like is just making an excuse and throwing it out there when we can do better, and there is the will to do better by all the people that sit on those committees. Another thing I'd like to point out is you will be talking about a parcel tax coming up soon, so I would like you to really look carefully at pages 100 and 101 of your budget book as you prepare next time to talk about a parcel tax, because once again, what we see is that the amount that was budgeted for part-time faculty and the amount that was actually, the estimated actuals for that spending are very different, okay? And the amount that we are spending on long-term liabilities using parcel tax money, again this last year, is huge. So all the things that we brought to light a year ago and all the things that we said we would do better over this year, there has not been a huge change. One last quick thing is clarification on the cuts and how that sort of went. I would personally like to applaud all the presidents for the work that they did trying to get buy-in from the faculty and staff at the colleges once those cuts were announced. But it's important to note that those cuts were announced and the way that they were put forward was not done with shared governance or buy-in from all of the groups. So it's really important to know that a decision was made at the district office for there to be a 10% cut to discretionary budgets and a 50% hiring freeze across the board, right? And so that was made without any dialogue, okay? And that's an important piece that you need to know because yes, there was dialogue once somebody said,
Your
cut
time
your
is up.
budget, it was done. So, yeah, I hope that we'll look carefully through this and really engage in it. Thanks.
Thank you. So we'll call the question so we can get on to the next matter. Madam Clerk, can you do the roll call?
Student Trustee Galan.
I just have one question. Like, I'm trying to understand, I'm still learning. Can I just ask the presidents, like, how their experience was?
Absolutely.
Like, collaborating on,
This is part of your,
like,
oh, I'm sorry, well, I'm sorry. It's through the,
okay. Chancellor, can you ask the presidents, like, how their experience was collaborating on the tentative budget?
Yeah, I'd like to ask the president to share their thought on the preparation for the budget. You can share how the process that you use at the colleges and for budget.
So I'll just share, the colleges were given a tentative budget based off the January budget that said we were having a flat budget. So we were re-given those budgets to build our budgets off of. That was what was initially told to us. So we built in the spirit of recognizing we'd have a flat with a 5% increase for utility increased costs. So we did get a bump to what is considered discretionary dollars as that's put in the line items for the budget for a 5% increase to utility costs, which I will just say does not actually cover all of the utility costs that we currently have now. And so we built budgets based on that, recognizing that we had that. As you've heard before, we received the directive in an email that basically told us what the cuts would be for the colleges and the different targets for each college, and we were given 3 days to actually give a response. We wrote back and asked for more time, and so we were extended for a week to get time so that we could vet the process. I will say that I think that the college presidents came together quite well and worked together to try to at least communicate across and try to make sure that we were communicating in the same manner to our colleges so that we sent similar messages so that we didn't cause, additional chaos. So I will just speak frankly for myself. It was difficult to make a $2 million, reduction in a time period. I think it'd be difficult if it was 3 months, though, too. So I do understand, and I think all the presidents do understand that we are working in a budget that Vice Chancellor Johnson is trying to do her job to be fiduciary responsible, and nobody disagrees or has tried to disagree with that. And I want to co-sign what Jennifer Schanowski said, is I've sat on the PBC. I feel like we've spent a lot of time trying to help facilitate that process so that we could have a good process there. And we have been asking to, really plan and to think about it. So, I think I can just speak for myself. That was my experience.
Tamil's right. The presidents came together and we sat and talked about it, and we were upset about it. It was tough. particularly initially before we found out that we did have an extra week. So all I can do is echo what she said, and yeah, we needed more time. 3 months would have been still hard. We had to cut almost a million. It was almost 800,000, and we're still having difficulties with it. So, I mean, anytime you have to cut, particularly in short notice, and you're trying not to affect jobs, and you're trying not to affect the classroom, it's very difficult, especially in a short period of time, and we didn't have the time to really pull in our constituency groups. It was difficult and it was awkward, and we still feel a little awkward, with our staff. It's difficult.
So what I do want to add, though, is that after we were given the directive and that we did the best that we can in terms of governance groups and constituencies that were still on the campus, I think now we've moved to looking at the district shared governance process. So the Planning and Budget Council Committee, district-wide, has agreed to meet. And so we are taking a look at the analysis, working with Vice Chancellor Johnson, on the analysis of the 10% cut and the hiring freeze. And we will be having those meetings this summer. And we will be taking whatever we decide, even if there are some adjustments in terms of what we've identified at the colleges and at the district. We are taking that to our college councils when they reconvene in the fall.
And I would just add, my reflections from listening to President Karras are similar to all the comments by the other three presidents. Just given more time, there would have been better opportunities for shared governance involvement in the process and for a more complete analysis. It was sort of a lot of emergency analyses and late hours and trying to figure out on the part of those that were involved to figure out the best way to accommodate the 10% cut and the 50% hiring freeze. And I know we definitely look forward to more involvement, more detail, and for the potential to plan for next year early on. Starting this summer would be great.
Trustee Galan, do you have any further questions?
No.
Madam Clerk, could you resume the roll call?
Student Trustee Galan.
Yes.
Student Trustee Jordan.
I had another question, Chair.
Yes.
So if the budget did not pass right now, how would that affect as far as planning? Like maybe if it was postponed for more planning, like how would that work?
We'll direct that to the Chancellor.
Oh, Chancellor, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, we couldn't spend any money.
Oh, is that right?
I vote yes.
Trustee Weinstein.
Yes.
Trustee Handy.
Yes.
Trustee Bonilla.
Yes.
Trustee Riley.
Yes.
Trustee Brown.
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Yuan. Thank you. Motion passes.
The next item on the agenda is item 10.4. Consider approval of amendment number 1 for a contract extension with the Alameda County Sheriff's Office to provide police services to the Peralta Community College District for an additional 1-year term. We
Madam
need a
President,
motion. and a
I'd like to
second.
move this item with with an amendment to the way that it's written, that the item be approved, but that Peralta not participate in any way in the Urban Shield program.
So there's been a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. The floor is open for discussion.
So I'm a little cautious about this because we have a new public safety committee,
And we are talking about this issue of the sheriff and fire and everything else. And I personally would like to hold off until we had another meeting to discuss what we think is most imperative.
Trustee Weinstein, are you directing your comments to the chancellor? Are you seeking a, is that a question or?
That's a good question. Can we hold this off for another 2 weeks?
Oh, you were talking about the urban shields?
Yes.
No. I don't think, you mean the entire item, not just it's been moved with an amendment to strike a line item, but you're asking about the entire contract.
Yes.
Can we do that? We're just talking about striking.
I think she was asking, it's up for a vote with the amendment.
Okay.
Trustee Weinstein's asking, do we have to vote at all today? Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah, our contract with, we wouldn't have sheriff presence on our campuses if we do not vote for the item.
Okay, so then we are voting for the item without the urban shield part of it.
Yeah, that's the motion that's on the floor.
I have a comment. This is an example of something that we've asked. We were in this spot last year, did a one-year amendment, requested a cost analysis. We want to know the value and cost comparison of having our own safety service as opposed to contracting with the sheriff's office and also similar districts. And we really, we did give enough time because it was a year ago. And now we are at the last meeting before the end of the fiscal year. So there's a level of frustration regarding the fact that we have to extend the contract for another year. That being said, it's absolutely imperative that we get an update in the next 3 months. When we resume our meetings, it's imperative that we get an update on this. I see nods, and so I would just ask if that suggestion is accepted by my colleagues. I think that we would, it would be helpful that we get an update regarding the cost analysis. And so, but before I ask the chancellor for that, I want to.
Oh, this is on the sheriff's.
Yes, on the sheriff.
I actually had a question.
Okay, Trustee Handy has a question.
I'm sorry, I stepped out, but when I looked at it, I said, why is it that we have an increase of $1 million for a contract that was signed 3 years ago? When you look at the cost per year, I closed my computer, but it was like, it was 3.5 million a year for 3 years. And now they're coming in at 4.5 for this 1 year. Is it because they have over a barrel? In what other arena do you have $1 million increase? Is this, cost of living, wages, whatever? That's seemed to be extremely steep to me.
So you directed that question to the chancellor to, right, Trustee Handy, am I correct?
Well, I'm just got
there is one item on the agenda, part of the expenditures that I had asked Dr. Icaro to do some research for me this afternoon, and I don't remember if you have that. So one thing is that there is a request to add 2 additional sheriff deputies to cover the Laney College, as well as patrolling the other campuses. So that would be, I believe, and then there is also a request for a cruiser as well. That would be a part of that. So that has increased the cost by over $600,000. We do need to re-verify that. So what I would say that if you pass the item, we may bring it back to you to know whether or not the additional $600,000 would be needed or not. But I think that has added to the additional cost, whereby we would have 2 additional deputies to cover the night time for us, because we are experiencing quite a bit of vandalism that happens at night. So having that presence could help us, but we do need to make sure that we can pay for it, and that's the part that we're still researching on that.
Trustee Galan and then Trustee Gonzalez.
So the original contract was 3 years, a 3-year term, and this is for an amendment of 1 year. And my question is, why don't we do 2 years? Like, why are we doing like 1 year? Like, what's the logic? Like, I'm not saying I agree with 2 years, but I just want to know, Chancellor, like why we're doing like 1 year, and like what's the logic behind that?
Yeah, that's a very good question. What we want to do is to examine the services that we are receiving, for one thing, and then ask ourselves, because it's been a few years since we've had the contract, ask ourselves if we want to look at the services in a different way. Do we want to have our own force? Do we want to have the cities where we are located provide the services? So we are asking ourselves a lot of questions around that. Before we make that decision, we need to take the time, as well as engaging the faculty, staff, students, and administrators of the different colleges to advise us on what they would like to see as the best way for us to do it. One piece that you may not know, well, you go to BCC, so you know that at BCC we have security. We want to examine whether or not that's the best thing for us to do. As a matter of fact, the board approved a 1-year contract for the security so that we can really do that analysis, bringing all of it together to see how we can receive the best services possible, the most secure and safe services to serve our district.
And one more question, in trying to find like the best services, did we examine any other bids for the contract? Like, we're contracted with Alameda Sheriff's Office. Do we have any other bids for that position?
When we, I'm not sure originally how we did it, but that's what we'd be looking at, whether or not we want to open it up to others. To bid on the services, how we want to organize it. And I think, again, that will be a very involved process that we want to engage in during the fall semester. That's why we have the 1-year contract.
Okay,
thank you.
Trustee, you and then it appears that Trustee Jordan, Trustee Jordan?
Are we allowed to make amendment to this, or request like clarification of amendment? Because what I heard, and I'm learning, so forgive me, I'm not trying to offend anyone, is that we need 2 additional police officers on Laney's campus for safety. Maybe I misheard what was going on. For nighttime students? Is that what, or?
Not just for nighttime students, but to patrol the campus period. Yeah. But not just for Laney. It would
for
also
all of the campuses.
That's right. They would do patrolling as well, but that presence we currently do not have. Okay. Yes.
And then also for clarification, because I'm learning, I may have misheard, but that we have one of the colleges already have security at the college.
That is correct. At Berkeley City College, instead of having police officers, we have security guards.
Okay. And so, was that looked into also, instead of having more police presence? The only reason why I ask is because we have a lot of returning students, like restoring our communities and systems impacted students, and there's been cases of mistreatment of students, even though we all want to be safe. So I think that we need to really think about more police influence on our campuses. and kind of look at that, but.
That's the reason why the contract we have with security is only for 1 year, because we wanted to look at the whole system of what we would do moving forward.
Trustee Bonilla?
And to Trustee Jordan's point, Student Trustee Jordan, and to Trustee Brown, we did ask for a cost analysis last year, not only for the sheriff's contract, but also for the security. And the cost analysis was to be juxtaposed with what it would be if we were to bring this in-house. We are still waiting for that cost analysis. And meanwhile, we have before us a $4.5 million contract for 1 year that gives me concern on so many different levels as we're talking about a restrictive and contracting budget. And to Trustee Gonzalez-Wynn's point, removing the highly controversial Urban Shield training where our own county supervisors are reevaluating their participation and support of that. They just took a vote, our county supervisors, this past March. They will be reevaluating and not refunding their own sheriff's contract with Urban Shield the way it is currently imposed in their current contract, for all of the reasons that we know and that Student Trustee Jordan just mentioned about policing with the community in mind. And these strategies that Urban Shield adopts run counter to those community policies. So we hope to receive a timeline from you, Chancellor, on the cost analysis.
Do we have a public comment on this item?
John, could you turn on your microphone?
Sorry.
Thank you.
Can you hear me now? I served last year on the Alameda County Task Force on Urban Shield. And so first I want to say a few words about Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen's proposed amendment. These are war games. These are 36 SWAT teams that come together from not just the Bay Area, but from around the world. And they engage for 48 hours in a SWAT competition, which I witnessed. We were observers this past September. They have no space for de-escalation. They are kill scenarios. That is what teams are rewarded for. The teams that have participated include an ICE team. They include international teams from the Mexican Federal Police, from Israel, from other countries that have violated human rights. At a supposed community fair, they hosted the Oath Keepers, a white extremist organization. There are parts of Urban Shield that include emergency operations preparation, but as Trustee Bonilla said, the county is reevaluating this, and there is extensive reason not to participate, including not to host any scenarios or to participate in other means. Now, just a little word about the numbers, because I was looking at the numbers. And it's awkward because you've got these two fellows over here, but I did a little look at the package, the compensation package for deputies under this proposal, and including, in addition to having 2 additional deputies, they would be making $233,000 a year in their package, which is more than all but 7 of the 3,000 district employees. This is a 30% increase in salaries since the 2015-2016 year. Adding 2 deputies to the 7 existing deputies while education is being cut sends a very negative message to this community. So I recognize that you may feel that you are being blackmailed, not just because this is at the last minute, but also because you may feel that, oh, you're not going to have the services that the Sheriff's Department provides. And I would urge you to consider whether you are being blackmailed in that respect. That's a strong word, but if you vote against this, you can actually force the question. You can force what you have been saying about a reevaluation. Why have 2 additional deputies at Laney College when other colleges have hired private security? Why are they paid so much? Why are there not alternatives being offered before this board? You can actually take that action and force the question. Force them to do work in a very rapid manner, but in a manner that sends a very different message to this community, that actually the educational services that your presidents are trying to maintain are going to be valued over extra sheriff's deputies and services that are actually reinforcing racism in this county.
Thank you for letting me jump in late. I mean, I don't know if people we're used to this sort of treatment now or what, but really you're being asked at the what day is today? It's almost July 1st. It's almost July 1st, right? So you're asked at the last minute to say yes or no, and like, no is basically being presented as an impossible answer. I don't think it's impossible either, right? I think you can say no. It's ridiculous to me. This is totally ridiculous. How many items are on the agenda today? It's like, yeah, we were gonna do it differently. We were gonna plan ahead, but we didn't. We were asked to do something, we didn't get it done. We said we would do better, we didn't do better. How many items? I've heard it a lot tonight. I've heard it before too. This one, we have issues with the sheriff's department at Laney. They need to stop driving their cars onto the quad, right? They need to stop driving where no one's allowed to drive. This argument about like presence deterring crime. The people who drove Urban Shield out of Oakland, they're gonna drive it out of Oakland over and over and over. Wherever you try to put it. I'm also asking I would like someone to ask for clarification. Offering the Urban Shield training, does that mean having it at Laney? Are you out of your, are you crazy? That will not happen. And the people who will make it not happen, a lot of them will do a lot of extreme, ugly stuff to make sure it doesn't happen. We've fought this fight. Some of us fought this fight. No militarized police, war games, whatever. No excuse for even more taxpayer money to go, that 60% of the federal budget that pays for military. Urban Shield's another excuse. It helps get the old military equipment into police departments, okay? That's a big reason for it. It's like a trade show for them. If that's what this means, I mean, even if this means paying for these officers to go to where? Contra Costa County to go to this training. We shouldn't pay for that. This is ugly, super ugly. If it's too late to really consider alternative policing, community policing, conflict resolution teams, there's tons of students at Laney. Aisha, we know this, tons of students at Laney who have done conflict resolution. There's more people who are willing to get trained. We know plenty of people who can do the training. You know, let's have a serious discussion, not this last minute. I just feel like this is absurd. Can you seriously take yourself seriously putting this kind of thing forward at this juncture in this way? This is bad.
Thank you.
Governance.
Mr. Weidenbach.
Thank you.
So we have our public comment. We've had speakers on this issue. What I'd like clarification on is a reiteration of the questions we asked when we had agenda setting. One was the questions we asked when we met, the board officers met with council on Monday, was can we strike line items? And that question still stands. I'd like some clarification because the item, we're ready to pull the item in its entirety out of frustration and dissatisfaction with the way that it was presented to us for review. There seems to be a supposition at times that the board doesn't read these things or doesn't understand them, which is entirely inaccurate, and the board does have a memory. So I would ask if it's possible to eliminate line items because these questions are still yet unresolved.
Madam President, it is possible to consider a motion that carries with it an amendment that would require renegotiation of the item. It can't be promised that the item will then, as it's been approved by the board, it just goes right back into the negotiation with the sheriff's office. So it could come back to you again. So if the board were to approve the contract, were to approve a contract with amendment that requires the renegotiation of the agreement, and the sheriff's department accepts that amendment to that revised proposal to the amendment, the contract would then move forward without having to come back to the board. It would go forward on the terms that were approved by the board. If the sheriff's department were to reject that change, then we would not have services. And if there were to be something else negotiated that created a material revision in the contract, that contract would reappear on the board's agenda either as a move forward item or as a ratification.
Thank you, Board Counsel. I would like to make a friendly amendment to Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen's motion that we request a renegotiation of the line items in the contract, including the additional costs for the 2 deputies, as well as the Urban Shield, which has already been stated, and that there be a request that the Chancellor and that the Chancellor work with the staff to determine what other items we might find reductions on with this contract.
That's an acceptable amendment.
We would need, Nikki accepted it, but we'd need a motion and a second.
Second.
With that motion on the floor, we'll call the question. Madam Clerk, can you take the roll call?
Student Trustee Galan?
Can you come back to me, please?
Sure. Student Trustee Jordan?
Just for clarification, Chair, we're voting on the amendment for it to be amended?
What occurs sometimes with these types of situations is that the board approval is required for a contract, but the board is approving, is requesting an effort to renegotiate the terms of the contract to eliminate the line item regarding the Urban Shield and also the 2 additional deputies, and to see if there's any other cost savings. We're basically asking for some of the things that we had requested earlier that didn't appear when the matter was appeared on the agenda.
Oh, and so then you go back to and I'm just asking because I'm learning. So you would go back to the Sheriff's Department and say, we want to renegotiate this portion of the contract, and then they say yes or no at that point, and then we come back and vote on it?
In order for the Chancellor to have the authority to renegotiate the contract, he would have to know what our request is. And in order for him to reach a deal, he'd have to have board authority. So we're giving authority under specific circumstances. Let me see if she's done. Board Counsel can further clarify if you like, because the trustee is starting to weave out of the lane of trustee and put on the lawyer hat.
I vote no.
So, Nikki?
Madam President, I'd like to clarify my original motion, which was not a request that we renegotiate on the Urban Shield, but that Peralta has an absolute prohibition from participating in the Urban Shield program. And that was the motion, I believe. I just wanted to clarify that.
The negotiation was to eliminate Urban Shield and the deputies and to try and find other savings. It wasn't to just question whether or not you could. So I believe we were on the roll call.
Student trustee Galan,
No.
trustee Weinstein,
Okay, just to clarify that we are talking about, we've outed the Urban Shield, and we are renegotiating with about the two policemen and the specifics of that.
And any other cost savings that are possible.
And do we know when you'll come back with that?
I will come back to you at the July 10th board meeting with a report.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to, yeah, I will say yes to that.
trustee Handy. Trustee Gonzalez Yuan. Trustee Bonilla. Trustee Riley. And trustee Brown.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Yeah, we should have security people that we can pay.
So it's not impossible to get like Clinicas, I mean, not Clinicas, Securitas, like last minute.
No, yeah, it's not impossible, it's just that these things are the last.
So why don't we just do that instead of voting like last minute on this? So we have gone through the action items,
Wait to vote on it, and they said no, because we won't have any.
and we have, that's the last item. So the last thing is Board of Trustee reports. Does anyone wish to make a report, or are you guys all ready to go home? Okay, it looks as though we have a consensus. Either that or bleary eyes cannot formulate the thoughts to put together the trustee reports. So there being no trustee reports, we will go to announcements.
The next regularly scheduled board meeting will be held on July 10th, 2018 at the district office. Madam President, that concludes the announcements for this evening.
The Board of Trustees meeting for June 26th is adjourned.